Hello, everyone. Welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I'm your host, Liam, aka Havara, and today I am chatting with another person. It is the one and only T um, from An
It's
Erudite
me.
Adventure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hi, T. Thanks for coming up.
Hi. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
T is enjoying his evening
Yeah.
in Alaska, and I am enjoying the darkness of Idaho. But
I've
that
never been
is,
to Idaho. I need to go.
yeah, it's pretty nice actually. I just moved here recently, so
Uh-huh.
well, beginning of the year, I guess. That's
Yeah.
I don't know what's that now, like 8 months, full 8 months.
9 months ago,
Yeah,
September 2nd.
yeah. I
Just
moved on
crazy.
January 1st actually, which was pretty wild. So, but
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, it's pretty nice. I haven't been to Alaska actually, so I would like
Well,
to
if
go
you're
to
ever up
Alaska.
here, let me know. We'll
Oh
meet
yeah,
up
I will.
or something. Even if you're not coming to my area, I'll come down to meet you or something.
Oh yeah, yeah, that'd be cool. My brother and my sister-in-law actually lived in. Okay, this is not about books, obviously, right now. But
Yeah,
my brother
that's
and
fine.
sister-in-law actually uh, lived in Alaska for a summer back in 2017. Um,
Okay.
they were working for Princess Cruises, I think.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
she was, I don't know what she did, but I know my brother just moved luggage around. Um, so yeah, they enjoyed that though. I don't think they've been back since, but
Yeah.
they encountered bears and
Oh
eternal
yeah.
sunlight, the bane of all vampires. Um, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
Haven't heard many rumors of vampires around here, so that's probably
Oh, that's
why.
good. That's good. Yeah.
Can't survive the summers.
Yeah.
That's why.
I actually, speaking of Alaska, the one author I can think of that I've read that is from Alaska, I wouldn't be surprised if there's more, but the one I can think of, I think her name is Anna Wall or something like that.
Let me
I think
write her down.
she's all indie published, I believe, and I believe she lives like in the bush or something. But I read one book by her in like 2015, so it's been a minute. But it's called like Half Breed or something. It was like post-apocalyptic. Um, so it was basically fantasy, but like there's a sword like training school, for example, in Chicago, if I'm remembering correctly. Um, and they're walking on the highway, right? But it's literally the highway, like our highways, right? It's not like
Mm-hmm.
some Roman highway or anything.
Yeah.
And but they treat it like it's a Roman highway type of thing. But anyways, it's about like these human wolf hybrids. So it's pretty. I thought it was pretty interesting at the time, actually. But yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
it's been a
Huh.
minute. It's been several minutes actually. So,
I was actually, I think it was yesterday, talking to another guy who, in the community, in the booktube community, who's in Alaska, um, and he was mentioning a couple authors that live or have lived up here. I guess Ian C. Esselmont and his wife live up here.
oh, really? I did
Yeah,
not know
which I didn't know that.
that.
Teach at UAF, which is where I went. Um, then Robin Hobb used to live up here, and another Brian Lee Durfee used to live up here.
Oh, really? I
I
didn't know
guess
that.
so. It's like, wow, okay, I guess I got to do a video on this now.
Well, that's cool. Huh. I remember I was I've been actually where Brian Lee Durfee was raised in Utah, which was really gorgeous actually. But the I was watching a not a bio, yeah, no, it kind of was. It's like a video like memory thing for Fritz Leiber, who passed away in '92. I think the video came out in like '92 or '93 or something, made by some university I'm not remembering. And it had several authors in it, because Fritz Leiber was an author, obviously. But and like just talking about like some memories about Fritz and stuff like that. And it actually had a Robin Hobb in it, a young Robin Hobb. I didn't recognize her because it used her real name, and I don't even remember what that is off the top of my head. And I
Yeah,
was like, "Who is this lady?" So I looked her up real quick. I was like, "Oh, that's Robin Hobb." I was like,
yeah,
"Don't recognize her. She's so young." In the video, so it's pretty funny what she said too. I don't want to repeat it here because I guess it could be construed as a little inappropriate, but coming from a young Robin Hobb's mouth. It was funny. Yeah. Anyways, so that's interesting though. I didn't know. Like I said, I don't know anyone besides that one that lived up in Alaska. It's not very populous, right? I mean, like it's pretty freaking huge, right? I mean, everyone knows that.
It's massive. Yeah. No. There. Last I heard, we're approaching 800,000 people or something like that.
Was that more than Wyoming? I think, but like,
it's like one of the. There's like one or two states that are smaller than it by population is all.
Yeah.
Then all of them are smaller by
probably like
size.
Delaware or Rhode Island, and maybe
something
like
that,
or something. Yeah. Wyoming's a pretty barren. I think their capital has like 60,000 people, which is nothing. So, but anyways, I live close to Wyoming right now. I've driven through it too many times. It's not that pretty, personally. Yeah. Sorry to say that, Wyomingings. I don't know what the heck you're called. No, it does actually have some pretty interesting stuff, some pretty parts. But the part where Highway 80 goes through, Interstate 80, is not very pretty. Anyways, but that's cool. Anyways, I'm okay with the conversation going wherever the heck it goes.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Whatever happens.
One thing that I like about Idaho, actually, since I moved up here, is there's a lot of volcanic structures that I should have that do make sense if I think about it. I'm really close to Yellowstone, about an hour and a half from Yellowstone, because I'm in East Idaho, Southeast Idaho. But it's really weird. Like for example, just outside of the town I live in are these buttes that are from volcanic activity made about 10,000 years ago. And when I went up to west of Yellowstone a couple weeks ago, you get past this town called Ashton, and it just, you go up and it looks like you're going up into the mountains, but it's not actually. Like if you've been up in mountains, right, you know the road like curves and like it goes up and down, and it's sketchy as heck. Obviously, I hate driving in the mountains. But this doesn't do that. You just go up, and it's like that's it. In reality, you're driving into a caldera, one of the biggest in the world, actually.
Okay.
Like from the Yellowstone hotspot, like when Yellowstone exploded like 2 million years ago. I'm like, this is actually kind of terrifying to think about, but it's really cool at the same time. You know, like once you hit that, and like most of the way to West Yellowstone, you're in a caldera, which is awesome, but terrifying at the same time. So.
I did a couple of years ago took a class on glaciers, volcanoes, and earthquakes, or something like that. I needed another science class, and so we were learning about calderas and volcanoes and all that kind of stuff. And I think we were talking about that one that created Yellowstone and everything for a little while there.
Yeah,
it's cool. It's cool.
Island Park, I think that's the name of the caldera that I drove through, but it's terrifying. That's a cool and terrifying sort of way. I was like driving through. I was like, man, I wish like authors would use this more in like writing. Like just a giant volcano. I mean, like if we have them in real life, like why have I never seen one in fantasy?
Well, Tolkien has one.
Yeah, well, yes, but it's very fiery and active at the time, I guess. I mean, volcanoes are one thing, and then like dead volcanoes is a different thing. I guess I don't know, but. I don't know. It's just cool to think about. It's pretty wild, right? Like that's why I kind of like Dying Earth books, because they're just like incomprehensible, right? It's just like that's so far in the future. Like my brain just does not compute, right? Yeah. Like that's so cool, right? Or like 2 million years ago when that volcano erupted, though, like humans didn't exist, right? I think Homo sapiens is supposed to be like 300,000 years, something like that.
But, I don't know. I don't follow it too much.
Sorry, I was an anthropology major for a little bit, but I thought the stuff was super interesting. But, anthropology definitely different than Arthurian stuff. Was that your major?
No, I was a foreign language major.
Foreign language. So okay, that's right. I feel like
I took a bunch of Spanish classes. That's all I did.
Yes.
Well, Spanish and music. I did a lot of music stuff because I was a music minor. But.
Music, okay, interesting. I cannot read music.
Neither can I.
Oh, really?
No, that's not true. I can read a little bit, but it's definitely one of the skills that I need to work on a lot
Oh
more.
yeah.
I'm just not good at it. But,
My wife can read it, but she's pretty slow at reading it. So like when she's playing a song on piano, she's normally like it's really like disjointed sounding, and generally, unless she knows a song really well. But she's not one of those people that can like, oh yes, like when she looks at it for the first time or something.
Yeah.
So
I play violin, and you're required to have a group ensemble. So I was playing in an orchestra, string orchestra, and a couple of the guys, specifically one of them, he'd just sit down and look at the orchestra music that's got all sorts of chords and everything in it, and just like play it perfectly first try, up to speed with the correct timing and everything. Like, this is so stupid.
Yeah, I don't. It's
like I can maybe plunk out one note at a time.
It's impressive, but at the same time, is it really impressive? Because it seems like they're just born with the gift, and like, I mean, it's cool.
No, there's a lot of people who have worked really hard to get to where they're at.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see it. I mean, it's cool to see the people who were born with it and who are very, very naturally talented as well.
Right. The little Mozarts over here.
Yeah. I've played with one girl, just like I think she was 12 when she came up here the first time, and was a soloist for the orchestra. And then a couple years later, she came back up here. I guess it was like 2-3 years ago. She came back up here and played with the orchestra again. And I'm like, she's so good, like way, way, way better than I'll ever be. And I mean, younger than me. So it's all right. She's also been playing for longer than I have. But sorry.
No, that's interesting. Definitely interesting. It's funny because I say I can't read music, but I was actually in band for a couple of years in middle school, and I can't read music, so obviously I probably didn't sound very good. But I was the only trombone player, so I didn't feel like I could quit.
Sure, you can.
Well, I did eventually, obviously, but but for a while there, I was like, I'm the only one. No, you guys, like, we even had one song that had a trombone solo in it. I was like, I can't play. What the heck? I'm awful. So I remember just this concert in like 5th grade, and I was like, I have a solo. What the heck? I'm literally like the only person in the entire band to have a solo. Like, what's okay?
Was it at least written out for you?
I mean,
like the notes were written.
Yeah,
even if you couldn't read them. Okay.
But I mean, okay, look, I probably had a better understanding of reading music then. Like, I had like a somewhat of an idea. I remember, like I remember my teacher telling me, yeah, that's close, or that's it, enough. But like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm just like not built for it or something. But,
yeah,
they say music's math, like right. I don't like math. Anyway,
so I played piano for 7-ish years. And piano's got four lines that you're reading basically all the time. And I could do that just fine until I quit and started violin, and then I couldn't even read the one line, and now I can't read 4 lines anymore. It's
really.
It's a skill that I've lost because I didn't use it, and it's one that I need to pick. Well, I need to pick piano back up and start working on that again at some point and get to where I can at least use it a little bit.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It's just a skill that's not natural. You have to really work at it. But
music is cool. I love listening to music. I'm a humanities major now, and I love that music is included in that. Well, until you get to the postmodern stuff, and then that's not really music. So, but anyways, not here to hate on postmodern music right now. If you like it, you like it, I guess, but it's not music. Anyways,
yeah.
So, sorry. My friend actually, he used to play trumpet, and then he switched to trombone for whatever reason, and then he couldn't play trumpet really anymore after that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It
sucks for him, I guess, but that's cool also. Whatever.
Yeah, it's weird how, I mean, like trumpet and trombone are both brass instruments, and so you'd think there'd be some similarities to them, but apparently there's not that many. I mean, once you actually are, other than maybe some like breathing exercise and stuff like that you actually, for sustaining notes and playing and everything, like maybe there's some of that, but I don't know. Violin and viola are similar enough that you just have to you have to learn a different clef, reading a different clef, but playing the instruments is very, very similar. Cello, I think, is a little bit different, and bass are a little bit different just because of the way that you're not holding them on your shoulder and everything. But
right, yeah,
I don't know. It's interesting.
yeah.
I need to do more.
Is there a bow
Go
for
ahead.
bass? Do you use a bow?
There
for
is,
bass?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, a double bass, yeah. Not
double bass.
like the guitar bass, but a double bass or a upright bass, or a contrabass might be the other name for it.
Yeah.
There's several names for them.
I'm trying to think of like
there's a big bow
version of it.
Yeah, but there's a lot. They do a lot of plucking. They don't have to, but they do, just because that's usually what the accompaniment written for basses requires, because they're not a solo instrument; they're an accompaniment instrument.
I guess that makes sense. No concertos for double bass.
There are.
There are.
We had, yeah. There was one bass player in the string area, that side of the music department, that for one or two semesters, something like that. And he played a bunch of music on bass. Some of them were just what's it called? I don't know, rewritten. I can't think of the transposed. They're transposed to be for a bass, but there is some that were written specifically for bass as well. So, really cool pieces.
That's interesting. Now I'll have to go and listen to some of that. What's your favorite type of music then? I didn't think we talked about music, but this is cool. It's
I like folk music.
Folk, okay.
And that kind of changes for where you're going. I mean,
right, yeah.
I listen to a lot of Celtic.
Oh, cool.
Which kind of makes sense when you know the rest of me too. But so I listen to a lot of folk, but Celtic specifically tends to be the majority of it. But then you bring folk music over to Americas, and it's things like Sons of the Pioneers, stuff like that becomes folk music. And that's, for some reason, it's the stuff that I always tend to enjoy the most. A lot of ballads I really like. I don't know. That's my favorite. Classical is probably my second favorite, though. I listen to a lot of classical music, which I don't, what I call classical is really all of the old music. There's like Renaissance and Baroque and everything. I just lump it all into classical. But I don't know the distinctions well enough. I didn't do music history.
Oh no, you're good. Yeah, I know what you mean when you say classical. It's funny though, like when people say classical, it's just like it can mean so many different things. It's like confusing sometimes. It's like, okay, well, what are you talking about? Are you talking about Greeks? Talking about Romans? Talking about Mozart? Are you talking about something that has a string instrument in it? So, but yeah. Anyways, oh shoot, I had something I was gonna say. What was I gonna say? Oh, okay, yeah, folk music. So my daughter's, my youngest daughter's middle name is actually Orla, named after Orla Fallon.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm a big fan of Orla Fallon. I listen to a lot of her music. So she used to be part of Celtic Woman, one of the original members of Celtic Woman. So that's probably your claim to fame. Great voice. I love listening to her, obviously.
My favorite female vocalist of all time is, at least at the moment, that could change, but at the moment is Hayley Westerna, I believe is her name. I don't think she was ever part of Celtic Women, but she does a lot of Celtic music, and she's just got the absolute crystal clearest voice I have ever heard. So I don't know, by far my favorite vocalist I've ever heard, but female vocalist.
Okay, I will listen to her. That's pretty cool. Now I like listening to whatever heck I can. I mean, I like listening to a lot of stuff. Personally, I have too many playlists on Apple Music. But and the variety is excessive. Probably annoying to some people. But I like it anyways, right?
I mean, I do listen to quite a wide variety, but if like I don't know what to listen to or nothing just sounds fun, I'll usually just go put on like Celtic Thunder Radio on Pandora.
Oh yeah.
And just whatever plays from that, because I've listened to so much of it that I've tailored it to exactly what I want, and it almost never spits out a song that I don't want to listen to.
That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. Way to work it. No. Okay, so speaking of
I
music, I guess. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
No, you
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, you.
All right. The last thing I was going to say is I just a couple months ago I got AirPods because I needed a wireless earbud, and my other earbuds were just dying and everything. So I caved and bought AirPods, and then so with that I got free Apple Music, and now I'm hooked on it, and I'm
Oh,
gonna have to
really?
start paying
Okay.
for it probably. But
I didn't realize it came with like a little trial thing, or
yeah, they give
or not.
3 free months with it. So
Oh,
now
that's cool.
once
My
I don't know, or six, actually it's 6 months for Apple Music, 3 months for Apple TV.
Oh, really? Okay. I
But
feel like
like once November comes, I'll have to either
yeah.
start paying for it or just go back to not having it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm spoiled with it, honestly, because I've had it for about 5 years. My parents got it about 5 years ago, and I'm part of their family or whatever, so
Mm-hmm.
I get it, and it's pretty stinking handy. I like it a lot. So
Yeah.
before I used Spotify a lot, but so it's interesting to go back to my old Spotify playlists. It's even worse or more interesting to go back to what are those things called? Was it like playlist.com? I don't know, circa like
I don't know.
2009, whatever I listened to my music on.
Before I was active.
So,
Before I was terribly active on the internet.
It's a little cringe to go back that far. Anyways, but that's okay. Anyways, I was gonna say, speaking of music, I was thinking of music in, well, I guess you could just say fiction as a whole, but fantasy maybe specifically. What do you think? I think it's pretty underutilized. I think it's
I agree.
largely absent.
I mean,
Actually,
Tolkien, obviously, there's a lot of it in Tolkien.
Mhm.
The only other place that it's really extremely prevalent is Redwall, and I love
really?
it in Redwall too. Yeah,
I did not know that.
the cool thing about it is, so all the audiobooks were, not all of them, there's a couple of them that weren't narrated by Brian Jakes, the author, but they were all done by a group that Jakes built and put together, and so he was involved in all the music for it and everything, so it all sounds like what he wanted it to sound like. And then he's got a whole voice cast for it, so the audiobooks for the Redwall are really, really good. There's a handful of them, there's like 5 or 6 of them that don't have audiobooks, which is sad. But that's all right.
There's a lot though, aren't there? There's several.
24, something like that.
24, okay.
22, 24, yeah.
Nice.
I mean, it's one of my top favorite series of all time. I put it higher than Stormlight Archive.
Yeah, I've heard you mention it a lot. I have not read any of it. It is.
I mean, it's
for a younger
a
audience.
YA. It's YA quite a bit, but it's that doesn't stop it from going dark at times. Like there's and it's animals, so with it being animals, it automatically kind of puts it in a more YA category. But some of the themes that he deals with, some of the stuff that happens, it gets into a little bit darker and more adult themes and stuff like that, a lot more than you would expect from that type of series.
That's interesting. That reminds, I have another series I haven't read. So I haven't read Redwall, but also one Earthsea, I think is YA-ish or something.
Yeah.
And I've always heard, I remember actually I listened to a lecture from the Modern Scholar series. What's it called? From Professor Michael Drought. See, I actually have it in my Audible, so let me just go look what it's called. But it talks about Earthsea for one of its chapters, I think. And it talked about how like the third book is about sex, but there's no sex in the book. And I'm just like, that's interesting. Okay, like I haven't read it, obviously.
I didn't get that at all from it. So I thought it was just a cool fantasy story. I guess I'll have to go back and reread it now.
I can be a lot of things. That's what I like about weird. Like I think that's actually the sign of a good author is when it can be, well, I think of like someone like Gene Wolfe, right? Who like some people are like afraid to read like Book of the New Sun or something. It's just like, yeah, okay, there's a lot of deep stuff going on in Book of the New Sun. If you really want to figure it out, like I'm sure you could read those books 1,000 times and still figure out, something new or whatever. Still discover something. But you can also just read the book and enjoy the story because it's still a good story. You could take this weird stinking adventure. You know, it probably won't. I would maybe say maybe it wouldn't be as enjoyable if you just read it for the, just, from page to page, just taking the story in or whatever. But it's still probably fine.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stories like that where the deeper you dig into them, the more enjoyable they become. I mean, even Tolkien's like that. The more you reread it and pick up out new things, the more enjoyable it becomes. And I think that's a mark of a good story, is that you can find new things in it. Even if, they don't have to be terribly deep things, but the more you look at them, the more you see, the more you can learn something from them. And I don't know, I tend to look at that as a very good thing in a story.
Yeah, I think that's impressive.
I think it's even more impressive when it's fantasy, because fantasy does have that bias against it, where it's, this is lesser because it's not real. And then when you start looking at it, it's not lesser because it's not real. It's more because it's real, or because it's not real, because it can tell a story that oftentimes you couldn't tell without fantasy. I don't know. I'm not one to say only read fantasy for the rest of your life, but if it came down to pick one genre for the rest of your life that you can never read anything else, then I'd say fantasy.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much to it. There's so much sci-fi that can be, well, this is a fantasy of somebody, so it technically fits into fantasy. You can grab it and pull it in and read it as fantasy. So I don't know. And then even what's the term that everybody uses that's like the high and mighty fantasy, that's literary fiction.
Yeah.
Whatever. Speculative, I don't know. I don't remember what it is, but the magical realism, that's the one that I'm
Magical realism is the one that's viewed as more literary.
Yeah. It's just fantasy. It's just fantasy.
It is just fantasy. You're right. You tell him. I personally don't think there's a difference between stuff. I guess it's nice to know like aspects of a story, but to act like there's a difference between like genre fiction and literary fiction, I think is just a folly. Put it bluntly. So, but anytime I say the word folly, I think of that quote from Tolkien. Which is it? The farmer. Is it Giles? Giles? I don't know how to say his name.
I've always said it Giles.
Okay, Farmer Giles of Ham, I think, where he says it's a folly without warrant. Pretty sure that's from that story.
Anyways. Probably. That's one of the few that I haven't read yet. Well, not few. There's a lot of Tolkien that I haven't read.
Yeah. I don't actually know if I've read the whole story. I know the quote because I think the quote's actually about it's funny because I think it's about it's one of his philology jokes he was able to insert into his stories, where it's saying the H in the Thames, the River Thames in England is a folly without warrant because there doesn't need to be an H there like at all. Etymologically there is no need for an H there. Ding dongs wanted to feel, Latinate or Greek like and put an H in there. So, anyways, be that as it will. Anyways, as far as the music stuff goes, I think you're right though that Tolkien's like the big one. I guess music shows up a little bit in like other stories. One guy I can think of that it definitely is a bigger part, kind of like Tolkien, is William Morris. I just finished another William Morris book yesterday, The Story of the Glittering Plain, and there's about 3 or 4 poems in it, I think, and I'm probably going to share those for Poetry Thursday later in September and maybe in October as well. But Morris is actually, how do I say this? I think he's actually a better poet than Tolkien. As far as like meter and like the actual like craft of poetry, the guy is like basic, like he's the best. I mentioned Morris in a Reddit thread the other day. I try to stay away from Reddit, but they were asking for fantasy with great prose, and I mentioned Morris, and I mentioned that he is largely known for his poetry. He is a poet, and someone said that he was actually supposedly more likely to receive some award or honor, but they didn't think he'd accept it, so they didn't give it to him over Tennyson, right? And so Morris is an interesting character. He's kind of like, I seem to find a lot of these authors that like aren't as popular today as they were at one point, like Leiber, for example. But Morris is probably the largest influence as far as like actual like writers go. Not like legends and stuff. But on Tolkien.
Okay.
So a lot of that stuff is actually taken, like the second book. He called them prose romances. That's what his fantasies are called. And the second one is called The Roots of the Mountains, which is where Tolkien got the phrase.
Yeah.
It also has a like a love triangle thing that's basically Aragorn, Arwen, and Eowyn. That's basically it, and that's essentially where he got it. I think he said that too. So he also said he wasn't as good as Morris, but I disagree. I think Tolkien is better than Morris.
I don't like the term love triangle because it doesn't make sense for most of them. They're usually a love line of some sort.
This is a very fair statement.
But I mean, like, I'm not gonna say that Tolkien's the greatest poet ever or anything like that, because I don't think that he is. He's my favorite because I've read the most by him, but I wouldn't say that he's the best, and it would take me a lot of reading to figure out who I would say is the best, as I haven't read enough poetry. I've read some, and I've read more since this Poetry Thursday thing started, but I still haven't read that much in comparison to all of it that's out there. So,
oh, that's how it goes, I guess. But I mean, that's how it works. I think Tolkien, though, that being said, I think Tolkien is a really good poet. He's really good, actually, like exceptional.
Yeah.
He actually knows what he's doing. I mean, just take a look at Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Like that is almost perfect poetry, in my opinion. Like, it is. I mean, stinking phenomenal.
Do you have it? So, I do have it down here.
It's been sitting by the side of my bed because I need to read Pearl and Sir Orfeo still. But
oh, really? Okay, those are pretty good.
I haven't read those ones. I think I'm gonna December go through and reread all three of them because Sir Gawain.
I want to reread it.
So good.
I want to reread it too. I want to read it in the Middle English, but that dialect in Middle English is kind of tough. But so compared to Chaucer's, at least, I like Chaucer a lot, but that's partially because he's easy. I like Chaucer because he's recognizable, because his English is pretty close to our English, relatively speaking, and his poetry is pretty close to our poetry. Like, he's the guy that, I don't know if he's the first, right? But like, he's the guy that at least popularized iambic pentameter, right? Which is like, it's iambic pentameter. It's the meter, basically, of English poetry. So, but Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is definitely what is it? It's a Westlands dialect, I think.
I don't know.
Definitely tougher. It's definitely tougher. So, but I need to get back to that one. Go ahead. Anyways,
one of the things that I really, really like about the Tolkien, and I think I've mentioned this. I don't remember what book or what video it was now, but I think I mentioned it a couple of times, where Tolkien keeps the alliteration from the original, and or as best as he can, and that is something that takes a lot of skill with the English language, a level of knowledge of the English language, to be able to translate it into English and find a word that is able to mean the same thing but also fit into that alliteration. And that's super cool to me that he was able to keep that. But then there's also I think how Gawain is formatted, but it let's go to a page where there's a full one on it, so that I'll just show. Oh, that one works. So page 2 there, it goes through this part that's just like a block of text that doesn't really rhyme, but it's very much got the alliteration to it, and then it goes into this last little section, and that part rhymes. And so the way that he's able to combine the two and keep the alliteration and keep the rhyme is super cool. I've got up here somewhere, I've got a different translation of Gawain, and it's very good. It's a very easy translation for a modern day reader. It reads more like prose than it does poetry, and so for that it's really good. But it's not as fun to read, and it doesn't immerse you in the story as much as the Tolkien does, which is weird that two translations can be so drastically different. But I don't know. It's cool too.
No, yeah, I think Tolkien did a great job. I have also read another one, and I can't even remember who did it. Some woman. But man, I can't remember who it is. But it's fun though when you look at different translations of stuff though, especially when you go into older works where they're almost always going to be translated. So something like Beowulf comes to mind. I'm a bigger fan of Beowulf than I am of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. But
I haven't made it through Beowulf yet. I started it. When did I start it? Last year. It must have been last year. I started reading it with David Wiley, and then I quickly tapped out because I was reading. I think I was reading Lamort at the same time, and so I was like, "This is just too much. I can't do them both at the same time." And so I tapped out of Beowulf because I was reading Lamort for school, so I had to read that one.
No, makes sense.
But I do want to get back to Beowulf, and I want to eventually. I don't have. What Beowulf do I have? I've got Frederick Reb Salmon translation of Beowulf, and it's probably not the best. Yeah, that's what I'm like. And I saw the Haney one or whatever that other very popular translation was. I saw it the other day, and I was like, I kind of want to pick it up, but I've already got. I don't know. 8
Heaney's is very accessible.
That same day. Yeah,
it's very accessible.
So I will one day I'll go back and read that one, and then I'll read this Reb Salmon one, and I'll read Tolkien's, and because it's kind of it's so influential on Tolkien that I've got to read it and find out why it was so influential on him. But so speaking of it real quick, then I'll let you talk. But the use and the incorporation of what I know of it, so like Grendel and the mother and everything into the Wars of Wrath, I thought that was really cool. The anonymous Gurzel, and it's just like the way that he incorporated it is just like, oh, I recognize this. And I don't know. There's a lot of stuff in there that I like. Whatever.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff. I could talk for hours on this stuff. But I will try not to. I think the Heaney version is really accessible. I think Heaney it seems like he doesn't try as hard after the first couple hundred lines. It turns less poetic. I actually did I translated it like a tiny section of Beowulf myself a few years ago, and I put it on a piece of paper with a bunch of other translations. I think I did Folk. He's a very popular Anglo-Saxon scholar, R.D. Folk. Tolkien's, Heaney's, and mine, and I just asked people which one was the best, basically, without putting names on them. Essentially, I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to say this one's mine, so you can tell me that one's the best or anything like that." So, but I haven't done a full translation. Obviously, my knowledge of Old English is actually pretty bad. But I can recite the first couple lines of Beowulf for you, in Old English, but which I think is cool. I just like walking around my house reciting Beowulf.
You did the poem couple months back where it was all in Old or Middle English, and that's cool. Or Old English, I think it might have been. I don't know, whatever it was.
Yeah, I've done a couple. The latest one was Bede's Death Song, and that one's in Old English. Yeah. So, and then before that, I did a Chaucer one, which was in Middle English, and I did Cadmus and Sam, which is in Old English too. But it's fun.
I think that's cool, and that's one of the things. If I ever manage to start learning another language, eventually I'd like to learn some Old English and get a better grasp on Middle English, which I read enough of it. The Bible is a lot easier Middle English than even like Chaucer, but I think I could start picking it up if I would just read things and start gradually making it using harder versions of Middle English. I think I could probably pick it up.
Yeah,
I think I've got I think I've
That's
got
a good idea.
or Gawain. Let me see. Winnie, that's who it's by. James Winnie, translation of Gawain.
Winnie, okay.
And this one's got the Middle English.
Oh, that's cool.
Old or beside
I like
the
side by
modern
side
translation,
things.
so you can't really see it there, but it's there. And I don't know, that's really cool. I mean that, like, I'd glance back and forth as I was reading through it and be like, yeah, I can see how they get this, and I can kind of pick out words here and there and stuff like that. So
yeah, no, it's Middle English is cool. And just a note, I guess, actually, if the King James version of the Bible is actually early modern English, but it's really early.
Yeah.
It's like right around Shakespeare's time, right? Or I guess it's right after, right? When did Shakespeare die? It's right around the time that came out. I think the Tempest came out in 1609. I think the King James version came out in 1610. Anyways, and
1611, I think, but basically, yeah. I mean, like, it's a lot of people unknowingly refer to it as Old English. It's not Old English. It's closer to Middle English than it is to Old English by far.
Yeah.
But it's really not. It's no harder than Tolkien, honestly. And I mean, maybe that's just because I've read it so much, but
yeah, right, exactly. I recommend the unmodified version of the King James version for practice. Most are modified, even slightly. It won't even be like the new King James version. It'll just say King James version, and they'll modify it, and they won't tell you they modify it. Like, for example, one version I've read a lot of, every word that's in italics in the thing is added. It's not actually from the original King James version, and there's actually a lot of words that are added, and some are just replaced. A lot of them are just spelled differently. So, for example, he is generally spelled H-E-E. You know, they'll use long S's rather than just S's everywhere. So it's still fun to look at. It gets you used to some of the orthography as well. But it's fun. I think it's fun stuff. I was thinking the next Beowulf version I'd probably read would be Kleiber's. I don't have a copy. They're a little pricey. But I want to read Kleiber's. One thing actually about Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, though, actually, is this is one thing I've never been able to find an answer to. Tolkien released his translation in the 30s, maybe it was the 20s. But he did his first translation of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight he did with someone else. I think it was R.W. Chambers. And so the version I have, it's in the other room, or else I'd go get it, because I have all my Tolkien books in my bedroom. And the version I have, it just credits Tolkien. So I wonder if he went back later and it just was his version, or it's the same version and it just has his name on it now. I don't know. R.W. Chambers is not nearly as popular, but he's also a scholar and was obviously contemporary with Tolkien. He's great, actually. You should read R.W. Chambers' scholarly works if you haven't. If you ever get around to that stuff. But that was one thing I'm always confused on. It's he released this version with R.W. Chambers, but the version I have is just Tolkien. And if I look up R.W. Chambers and Tolkien, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, I can't find anything. So I don't know. I don't know what happened there, and I don't know when Chambers is dropped or if Tolkien redid it just by himself. I wouldn't be surprised if he did, but I've literally never heard any answer to that. So
I mean, he redid Lord of the Rings who knows how many times. So
right, I mean, that guy
not technically rewriting it, but I'm sure he did a lot of that too. But he went back and changed things, updated it over and over again, right up until his death. And it's it takes some commitment. But when you read Unfinished Tales, there's lots of inserts by Christopher where he's like, my father was planning on updating this, but he didn't get to it, and so this is what it would have looked like eventually if he would have sent in this new revision, or if it would have, there's that type of things all over the place in there.
That's one thing I think a lot of people don't realize is when they read the Silmarillion is that is a finished product cobbled together by Christopher Tolkien. It is not the finished product that Tolkien would have had in mind to publish. Heck, because it probably never would have been published. Though he did submit the Silmarillion back in the 30s, I think.
It was one of his earlier ones that he submitted. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they didn't want it, but
wonder why.
Yeah. So Well, they missed out, and they didn't know they missed out, but they totally missed out. It probably wouldn't have sold at all at first, to be honest. But like eventually, you're right, they could have sold the rights to that for some big bucks. Speaking of rights, the Silmarillion, apparently Amazon doesn't have them.
No, that's what I've heard. Is all they've got is the Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit, and the appendices.
Yeah,
which really limits what they can do.
Kind of with
once you see the finished product, I think there's still some things, and I've mentioned them a couple times in my video. I think there's some things that they could have done, and still within the confines of the appendices and Lord of the Rings, that could have been closer still to Silmarillion, to other Tolkien's original thoughts, which again Christopher compiled Silmarillion. But even things like, so in the first episode when Galadriel's doing the narration flashback and they're talking about the destruction of the two trees, they didn't even mention Ungoliant there. And they should have. And Ungoliant is mentioned and named in the Lord of the Rings and the appendices. Even Cirith Ungol comes from Ungoliant, that word. And it's like there's connections that you can make, and just to take a little bit step further, and you could have been that much closer with this show. So there's little things here everywhere in that first episode where I was like, no, don't do this.
Yeah, I don't. Probably don't. I kind of don't want to talk about it too much, but yes, they definitely. How do I say this? With some of their choices, I realized they didn't have much choice, but they're still like weird. I mean, like the show is full of cliches and is just trying too hard sometimes. And sometimes it's just cringe. But there is actually a lot of good stuff about it. I think overall, actually, I enjoyed it.
It was better than I was expecting.
Yeah, well, I was expecting
Wheel of Time too,
so of course it's better. But no, but yes, it's way better than Wheel of Time. But that's also a really low bar. It's like saying grits taste better than feces. I mean, it's like
true.
Anyway, I hope no one loves grits watching this. Anyways, but I don't like grits.
Well, even if they do, it's still. I mean, I think of that same. I mean, I think of it the same way as with the books, though. I think Tolkien's books are infinitely better than Jordan's. I mean, I'm only through book.
No, amen.
3. Yeah,
that is objectively correct.
I mean, like, I'm happy there's people that like them, but they're just not nearly as good as Tolkien, in my opinion. So
they're not even close, actually, in my opinion, at all. But but they're okay. I don't think.
I liked the first one the best so far. Eye of the World, which was basically that's the basically Tolkien ripoff one, and I liked it the best. I thought it was different enough from Lord of the Rings to feel like its own thing, but also close enough to really take the things that worked with Lord of the Rings and utilize those to make a good story. And I don't know. I thought so far, I think that Eye of the World is the best of the 3 that I've read.
That's interesting.
I
wasn't a huge fan of the Eye of the World
4,
but I liked out of those 4, maybe The Shadow Rising was my favorite. I've
heard a lot of people say that.
The Dragon Reborn was terrible in my opinion, but I think you liked that one.
I did not like Great Hunt. That one just was
I liked that one. Actually, I was mad about the ending, but there
was a lot of things that I really liked about it. Things like the traveling, with the stones and everything, and all the different forms of travel and everything that they introduced. There was a lot of really cool stuff with it, but the story that they told was so boring, and like it just dragged on and on and on, and then you get to the end. Well, you skip like 6 months, and you don't get to see anything that happened in those 6 months or 4 months or whatever it is. And then the ending is just like bam, 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 and it's over. And you're like,
that's basically a Jordan novel for you. Unless you're reading the shorter stuff, but no one reads
I can see where Sanderson gets. I mean, like, it's the same format as Sanderson. And
Sanderson is a way better writer, though.
I agree.
in my opinion.
Even though I don't love Sanderson, the more new stuff that Sanderson writes, I don't like it as much. Mistborn Era 1 was peak Sanderson in my opinion. Like nothing's been as good as that since, and
Interesting.
that's kind of sad. I really like The Way of Kings, and I liked Words of Radiance quite a bit. So those two Stormlight archives are the best of Stormlight. But all three of the Mistborn Era 1 books are the best. Those first two Stormlight books are really good, and then Warbreaker. I really liked Warbreaker, but that one I like more as I look back on it. Less of, I mean, it was fun to read and everything, but it felt more YA while I was reading it. But looking back on it, I enjoy it more. I don't know. There's still a lot that I need to read though with his stuff.
I have that happen a lot with the book. Says like, oh, I didn't really enjoy this when I was reading it, but I can't stop thinking about it, so I must actually like it.
Well, I mean, that's what happened with the Green Knight movie. Like, I still don't think I liked it, but I still think about it all the time, and like maybe I should rewatch it and see if my opinions changed. Or
they did some things right. I actually just bought it on Ultra HD. But so
I mean, it's a beautiful movie. Like it's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
So.
Yeah. Jinx. Anyways, speaking of the Eye of the World though, and Tolkien, I did not connect the Lord of the Rings with the Eye of the World at all when I read the Eye of the World. Like when I first heard someone's like, this is basically just a Tolkien like copycat. I was like, really? Oh, well, I guess kind of, yeah. I didn't notice somehow, but I guess you're right.
Like, Lord of the Rings is so focused. There's so much of it that's focused on the ring, and there isn't really a equivalent to the ring in Eye of the World. It's just the story beats are so similar. But I'd known that everybody was like, oh, this is the first three books are really very much, they just feel like Tolkien. They just feel like Tolkien and all that stuff. And so when I read it, I was like, it doesn't feel like Tolkien. It feels like homage. A love letter to Tolkien for creating this genre that we can all play in now, or for bringing this genre into the modern audience rather. Because, I mean, he didn't really create it. He kind of just brought it to the forefront of everybody's minds.
Right. Yeah. That's
I defined it, I guess. Defined the genre.
No, yeah. He's definitely the daddy of the modern genre. At least high fantasy. I think you could definitely argue other people, like Robert E. Howard is the father of Sword and Sorcery, for example, and Sword and Sorcery is not high fantasy. Well, I guess it is kind of high fantasy.
Epic fantasy.
It's not epic fantasy. It is heroic fantasy, though. Wow, confusion. Anyways,
it's so confusing. One of my earlier videos that I did was fantasy subgenre breakdown, and I was just like, this was not worth my time to do this right now. But I had a couple people ask me to do it, and so I was like, okay, I'll do it. And it was a good video for me to do, but I could have gone so much more in depth in it, and I probably should have. Someday I may go back and update it.
It's hard. They're hard to talk about.
There's so many, especially when I haven't read a lot of them.
Right. So. Yeah, I think defining genres is not only difficult, but also I think it's confining. I think it doesn't help authors, generally speaking.
Yeah.
It gets rid of some sort of creativity. It's like, I just hit these boxes and then I'm writing high fantasy or epic fantasy or something. But
that's one of the things I've appreciated about the Wars of Wrath series is like technically it's categorized as grimdark or whatever, which I've never read grimdark, and so this is kind of like my first introduction to grimdark. But I don't see it as that. I see it first and foremost as historical fantasy, as this is history but with a magic imbued into it, and I really appreciate that. Or even Arthurian or fairy tale fantasy. Like I see those things more than I see the grimdark aspect of it. I understand and know that there is some grimdark to it, but that's not the first thing that comes to my mind with it.
Yeah, same. And man, I really love the Wars of Wrath.
They're good.
It's like I don't know what the heck. It's like a dream come true. I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Basically, type of thing. Like, what the heck? But
I love the focus on the Arthurian side of things on the British Isles and and Baden Hill. I did put my review up, yeah. But that one, like, I really liked Gerzel and I liked a lot of the stuff that was going on, but I couldn't wait to get into the Arthurian stuff. And it was very different. It was a very different take on all those characters and everything. But it still felt true to so many of the personalities and everything. And it just like, this is really cool. I like this. So
yeah, and
I need to
I'm
read.
just glad.
I need to read Bernard Cornwall's stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah. I haven't read that either.
Apparently his Arthurian stuff is really good.
Huh. Yeah, I hear good things. I need to read those. But I appreciate, I like the idea of Arthurian and then actually including everything else that was going on around that time. I mean, like Beowulf would have taken place around that time, right? And so that's cool, right? That you mentioned earlier that Grendel and Grendel's mother, they're included. You know, and so like even though it's minor, they don't actually show up at all. It's just mentioning kind of flashback
mentioned.
So
and then
I think it's awesome.
The prologue with King Lear and everything in this one, or however that worked, I don't remember exactly now, and I haven't read King Lear, but like it's just cool to see how it's all incorporated and how it makes sense with this story that he's telling, but also still feels like this is real history. So
yeah, he makes it coherent, magical, and he somehow still keeps it cool, I guess. So
I think the epigraphs really help at the beginning of each chapter, where he inserts that quote epigraph type thing, where it sets the stage. It gives you a little bit of sense of it. Must have been, I think it was on my Discord where we were talking about the Cats of Queen Beruthiel or something like that, and how like that basically is that last chapter of Baden Hill, and I was like, oh, I recognize this now, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Cool.
That last chapter is creepy. It's pretty cool stuff. No, I really dig it. Actually, I'm supposed to be talking with Anonymous at some point, so maybe
that's cool.
I can have you join us or something. But it's a fun read for sure, and it's what's the word? But I like how he uses vandals. Right, like most people probably don't even know what a vandal is, you know. Like, and he's just like he doesn't ignore them. North Africa, there's stuff going on still after Rome has fallen, you know. And
it's clear that he has a lot of knowledge about everything, and how I don't have any idea, but it's really cool. So.
He's read a lot, and I remember the first book. I was like, I don't know if this place exists because I haven't read any Procopius. He's like, yeah, that exists. I was like, it's here, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. So, like I know some things, you know, like, and like I love one of my favorite, two of my favorite books rather are Widsith the Study, which is by R.W. Chambers, if I'm remembering correctly. It's over 100 years old. It came out like 1912 or something ridiculous. It's really stinking good. I think it's the most up-to-date study on the poem, which is really sad. But because why the heck isn't there a newer one? I don't know. But and then another book is I think it's called The Waning Sword. It's by Edward Pettit, I think. These are books. I keep that stuff by my Tolkien books, so they're in my bedroom. But that book is awesome. As well, it talks about like Beowulf and like Grendel and like Grendel's mother and like the sword that Beowulf finds in the mirror and like how that relates to like some Norse sagas and just other things like that. So I use that stuff a lot in my poetry, though I don't write a lot of poetry and I definitely don't share it with anyone. But I try to use it. I like pulling like some things like. Yeah, like that was totally a reference to some, you know, old English poem. You probably don't realize that, and you probably don't care if you did, but you know, it totally was. So I like doing that. I like little connections. That's actually why I like language, because I like being able to connect things just from words, you know, because it's stuff we use all the time. I mean, we're using them right now, obviously. And so it's just like you mentioned earlier, like Ungoliant and Curith Ungol, you know, like they are related. I can't remember what languages those are actually, but one of the other
should be Quenya.
Yeah, I mean, Ungoliant would make sense as Quenya.
And
I guess
Sindarin
is what
Ungol's probably because there's a lot of Quenya and Sindarin that are both
a lot of it sounds the
very
same, yeah.
similar, because Sindarin was taken from Quenya and kind of very much like a Latin-based type language relationship, and so I could see that then coming from that. Cirith Ungol would be Sindarin, but it comes still from that Quenya word.
Yeah, are
and I could be wrong.
Come from
I'm not
Quenya? I think it
Tolkien's
comes from
word.
primitive Quindian. I think they both come from the same parent. So
That's
they're like
probably,
Spanish and
that's
Italian.
Probably,
Yeah,
that's probably close, more accurate.
I always remember there are some sound changes, like a lot of P's become B's in Sindarin, and a lot of T's become K or K sounds, because like Celeborn's actual name was Teleporno. Which sounds ridiculous. So like,
it does to this modern audience.
That was actually one of the things.
It's a good change on Tolkien's.
Yeah, right, exactly. That was actually one of the things I didn't like immediately about Rings of Power. Was Celeborn's not in it. But I know that is not. It's not obvious.
You feel his. You feel his absence. You feel his and Celebrian's absence. I mean,
you feel it.
The relationship between
because
with the relationship between Elrond. Yeah, that. The relationship between Elrond and Galadriel, though, it doesn't make sense without Celebrian being there. Which for Celebrian to be there, you also need Celeborn. So
yeah, I know. I was telling my coworker.
It kind of makes some sense. You kind of need some of that stuff to happen. And I mean, I suspect that Galadriel and Elrond knew each other before Elrond married Celebrian and everything like that. But I don't think they would have had that close of a relationship until she becomes his mother-in-law. So I don't know.
You don't get that vibe at all from the show. You think they have like a little crush on each other or something?
You do. Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. And it's. I mean, I really like Elrond. I'm liking Elrond. I'm liking that portrayal of Elrond so far. All the stuff with Durin the Fourth was phenomenal. Like that's the stuff that really shown, in my opinion.
I like that stuff.
The relationship between those Elrond and Durin, although it kind of doesn't make sense with Elrond, at least Third Age Elrond, because Third Age Elrond does have a little bit of bias against the dwarves at that point. He doesn't trust. I mean, he's willing to help Thorin, but he doesn't really trust Thorin. And that's really the greatest interaction we see with him and dwarves at that point. I think his opinion might change a little bit between the Adventure of the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings because he likes Gimli, or he doesn't have an issue. He doesn't seem to have an issue with Gimli. So I think Thorin's accomplishment change his opinion a little bit, change Elrond's opinion a little bit. I mean, there's 77 years between the events of The Hobbit and the main part of Lord of the Rings, because there's 17 years between. It's 60 years between when Bilbo gets back and his 11th birthday, and then there's another 17 years before Frodo leaves. So it should be 77.
Which the movie doesn't show really at all, but
it doesn't. It's understandable. It's a different medium.
That's for sure.
That's the thing. The movies don't tell the story. It's the same story as Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings books are basically a memoir of four hobbits going on an adventure. Whereas the movies tell the story of the quest to destroy the One Ring. And it's a change that needed to happen because it's a different medium. And the story of four hobbits wouldn't be interesting on screen, but the story for the quest to destroy the One Ring is. And so it's something that makes sense once you understand it in that way. But at the same time, like, I would have loved to see Glorfindel. I'd have loved to see Tom Bombadil. Just because, but it's unnecessary for the story that they were trying to tell.
I think you do see Glorfindel, but it's funny because literally the only part he has in the movies is My Lady, like when he's talking to Arwen and she like rides away on her horse. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Kind of lame,
but I mean, they also
Glorfindel is probably one of the badassest characters.
So cool,
all of literature.
Such a cool character. Takes down a Balrog and falls off a cliff with it. It's just like this is awesome.
The other one's Ecthelion. I like Ecthelion a lot too.
Ecthelion, but they exclude Elladan and Elrohir mostly. I mean, they exist in the movies, but they don't play the role that they do in the books. And then the rest of the Dunedain don't exist at all. Like they're not there,
Right.
and that it wasn't just Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn that go through the Paths of the Dead. That's the three hunters and all the Dunedain, and it's just like, why aren't they here? It's so important.
Yeah.
But again, it comes down to the story that they were trying to tell and the adaptation to a new format.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I still like the movies. The books
I
are
do too.
better, but I still like the movies.
They're as movies, they're masterpieces. Some of the best movies ever made, whether fantasy or not fantasy. Like just across the board, some of the best movies ever made. So
yeah,
I can't dislike them. The Hobbit, they're enjoyable. The Hobbit movies are enjoyable to watch. They're a fun ride. They're not really terribly great. I like the direction that they went with the first one. The first Unexpected Journey was close enough that I was like, okay, I could see them doing this. What really messed it up was the inclusion of the Tauriel and Killy love story, which was unnecessary. It also doesn't work. Like it doesn't work between humans and elves. It's not going to work between elf and dwarf.
And without them, you don't need or Keely obviously would still be in the story, but without Tauriel, you wouldn't need Legolas in the story either. Which I mean, it's nice to see Legolas.
It makes sense that Legolas would be there, though, to be honest, because
it does.
At that time, he's still in the Woodland Realm, serving under his father, and so it makes sense that he would be there. It just didn't need to play that role.
There are some cool things in the Hobbit movies. I really like the Thranduil moments. Which don't happen in the book,
we
right?
don't. I'm sad that we don't get them like stumbling into the woods after the feast party, and then the elves just poof disappearing and knocking all the dwarves out. Like I missed that part because that
I don't think that would work so on the big screen. It could. It was a trippy scene.
It would be hilarious.
Yeah,
it'd be really cool to see, but it wouldn't work the same way. It wouldn't be able to keep the seriousness that the movies were going for.
Shame. Do not speak to me of Dragonfire, man.
That's a cool scene where his face just melts and shows the scar that he had. It's cool. I mean, makes sense.
Yeah. One thing this reminds me of is the whole since they don't mention Ingolian, but they also don't mention the Kinslaying. They mentioned the Silmarils, I think, in the second episode, don't they?
Yeah.
But they just mentioned
in the discussion between Celebrimbor and Elrond.
Oh yes. Celebrimbor.
That's actually a good conversation.
But
yeah, I haven't played those, but I want to just because I've heard they're good games.
They're pretty decent.
But I've heard they're not accurate at all. And
no.
I know why. Elven spirits don't attach themselves to humans. Definitely not Aragorn's dad.
Right. But it's the thing I found that's like kind of weird is her motivation makes no sense though without the kinslaying and other things, and like the whole like when Gil-galad. Okay, this is kind of spoilers for the show. Sorry guys. But when Gil-galad does his cringy thing, I'll just keep it at that. I guess I thought it was super cringe. When he does his cringy thing, it's really cringe. But because it doesn't make any sense. But without the other context, it doesn't make any sense. So, but the problem I think is that her motivation is Finrod's death. Screw the rest of her brothers; they don't know.
Right.
But Finrod gets reincarnated, like shortly after he dies, and he lives in Valinor. So what the heck is she crying about? I don't get it.
I mean, I don't know. There's a lot about it that I'm just like, why did you decide to do this? Whereas you didn't need to. You could have just done it slightly differently. Even things like right at the beginning of the episode, not having Galadriel return at that time would have fixed that whole issue. I mean, yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. There's some things I'm still a little scared about. I hope the Arondir stuff turns out okay. And
I'm not minding it so far. I'm actually
okay
liking the Arondir stuff quite a bit. I don't care for Bronwyn or Theo. I don't care for either of them. But Arondir himself, I don't mind.
I was talking to Rinfail, if you remember Tim.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I
see
watch
him
all his
comment on some
videos,
of your
all
videos.
his
Yeah,
Lord
okay.
of the Rings
Yeah.
videos.
Tim's a good guy.
Yeah.
He said basically the same thing, actually, that he likes Arondir but doesn't really care for Bronwyn. I thought the scene with the orc in the second episode was really sinking good. I thought it was well
It's
done. Like
terrifying.
how a normal person would view an orc. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was terrifying. The thing I'm really skeptical of is the stranger. I'm like, please don't be Gandalf. Please don't be Gandalf. I don't want it to be an Astari at all, but if
I
it,
don't
it
either.
could be one of the blue wizards, that'd be cool, but I don't think they have rights to that. So
there was there's I can't remember what his, I think his channel is the Book Sage, and he did his breakdown of the video or of the episodes, and he mentioned that it would be cool if the stranger was a Balrog taken on human form and is going to work his way over to Moria and then body slam Durin the Third. That's how he becomes Durin's Bane. I'm like, okay, that would be awesome.
Because that would be pretty cool.
We know that the Balrogs are Maiar.
Work. Yeah.
Which is very much what he seems, this stranger seems to be, but he just acts too much like Gandalf, and he's about 2,000 years too early to be Gandalf still.
Yes, he is.
But he's not actually, though. He's only about 1,000 years because we know that Elendil and Isildur are alive, which means that yeah.
But they could have just squashed the timeline.
They've squashed the timeline, which is not okay, because you can't have two Durins alive at the same time. Yeah. But you can't have two Durins alive at the same time as it is. So they've already messed that up. But they also, so Ar-Pharazôn and Elendil are alive at the same time. Ar-Pharazôn takes off and goes to Númenor, or to Valinor, and tries to storm Valinor and take Valinor for himself. Completely gets owned, and then Númenor sinks. Elendil and Isildur take Faithful and head to Middle Earth and establish Gondor and Arnor. And then a couple years pass, and the last alliance of elves and men happens, where they go destroy Sauron, or think they destroy Sauron.
Right.
And so, like, that stuff, character-wise, they've got the characters in the right spot for Númenor, but timeline-wise, they don't, because of everything else, basically.
Yeah. And I think they want to go into the Last Alliance stuff, probably in the last season or something.
What I would have liked them to do is time jumps between seasons. Have the elves be your main cast of characters, and then introduce new humans each season. That way, the last season can be Elendil and Isildur. Or you could even do season 4. I guess I think they're planning on 5 seasons, so you could do season 4 with Isildur as a young man, or Elendil as a young man, and then season 5 as Elendil as king, or supposed to be king, and then Isildur as his son, and then I don't know. It would have to be something like that. But we'll see what happens with it.
Be cool.
It's got potential. It's got some potential for sure, and it's definitely not as bad as I was expecting it to be. But
yes, I'm looking forward to Anatar, which could be the stranger, but I doubt it.
I'm not sure that they can do Anatar, though, because I'd have to go back and look, but I don't know that Anatar is mentioned in
Ar-Pharazôn,
Lord of the Rings. Yeah. I don't
looking
know
forward
that
to the hills collapsing on his army, though.
Maybe I should let me grab my book.
Good idea.
I had to decide which edition. This one's gonna have the most.
It's gotta suck that they are so restricted in, without the Silmarillion and all its extra stuff.
I'm just checking to see if in the index or the what's it? I guess the index, if they mention Anatar in the index, because if they do, then that means he's in the book somewhere.
Yeah.
No, but they do mention Ancalagon the Black. Let's see.
Yeah, that happens in the Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah, they don't mention Anatar.
No.
Which means they don't have access to Anatar, to using that name. They can still, I mean, they
Well, they
still
can
have
make a
Sauron the
basically an
Deceiver,
Anatar
so they
character,
can, yeah. Which I've heard some people think that that's who Halbrand is going to be.
Oh.
Which I don't know that I like. But
I don't know
see.
about that one. Maybe. Well, we technically haven't really seen anything of the Numenorians, so we'll see.
Exactly.
I guess.
Yeah.
But I am looking
we'll
forward to that.
that.
Are we gonna get is An Erudite or An Aryan, whatever the heck his name, a character?
The other son of
Yeah, it's
Elendil?
Isildur's brother.
He should be. What's Anorian, I think. Where am I?
I don't know how to say it. I always say An Erudite, but that sounds wrong. But
but I mean, he should be, because the Argonath is the
Argonath has him, but did they name him?
Yes, they do. So Anarian is mentioned several times in.
Wait a minute. Need to reread that.
Yeah, and Lord of the Rings. So, but I haven't seen any behind the scenes stuff or casting announcements or anything for Anarian. So, Anarian. I don't know.
It's probably Anarian.
Whatever his name
I don't
is.
really know, but
I just looked at it and I've already forgotten. But so they need to have him there, because it wouldn't make sense if he's not there. I could see them having him be quite a bit younger, like a teenager, but still, I don't know. If he's not there, that's another mess up that they need to have fixed long before now. So
yes, well, they do only actually start filming the second season in October.
They haven't started yet. I thought they started.
Well, they might have started something, but I don't remember. I was reading something and it said something like they were gonna start whatever in October. So, but that could be, they could have had like filmed in chunks or something. I don't know the words. So, but anyways, yes. So this is random and off topic, but I think you might enjoy the book "The House of the Wolfings" by William Morris. It is the first of his prose romances. It's more historical fiction than actual fantasy. So I just finished Story of the Glittering Plain. So he wrote these prose okay, this is totally off topic, but I'm totally recommending you this book right now. But
that's right.
He wrote these things called prose romances. That's what he called them. Because Morris is a G, and hated modern society and liked medieval stuff, and so he wanted these prose romances to be medieval, right? They're pseudo-medieval. He's also a nationalist because, it's the 19th century and everyone's a nationalist. And unless you're American, maybe. But, and so, well, even then, I guess. But anyways, that's a different topic. William Morris, he's a cool guy. He's interesting, for sure. But he wrote these prose romances like the last decade of his life. I think the first one came out in 1889, that is. And he died like a couple years or right around the time Tolkien was born, actually. I think his family was actually familiar with William Morris.
Probably.
Tom Shippey says it was. I don't know where the hell Tom Shippey gets his sources, but if Tom Shippey says something, I trust him.
Yeah.
So
usually.
Tom Shippey is such a funny guy, though. Like this is an off topic. Sorry, I go on tangents all the time.
That's all right.
But I had this lecture series that I audited from Signum University. You should go check them out too. But they.
I'm done with
Tom
college.
Shippey,
sorry, I'm done with
it.
It's
get a certificate in Tolkien studies, man. Like what's not to like?
That would be cool.
So it's relatively cheap too. It's all online, obviously, but. Anyways, Shippey, in one of the lectures, he's like talking about some runestone in some church, and he says, like, if you look up the translation online, it says this. He's like, but I got on a ladder in that church and I read the stone and it doesn't say that. He's just like, he's saying one of the runes is not like, I don't remember what it is. He's saying it's not like an ash, but like a thorn, and I don't think that can't be it because that doesn't make any sense. But and so it's just like. And so he's saying like it's this, and he's connected to something else. And I was like, well, I don't know what the hell you're saying, Tom. But it's Tom Shippey is just the GOAT. Anyways, put it that way, greatest of all time. He is the successor to Tolkien in a lot of ways, but not nearly as popular. Tom Shippey's awesome, honestly. I'm really looking forward to his next book. I emailed him once he responded to me. So,
wow.
But Took him literally like 4 months to respond, but that's cool. He's
yeah.
also ancient, so God bless you, Tom Shippey. Anyways, he's the Tolkien expert that got fired from Rings of Power a couple years ago because he broke his NDA. So, which is a shame because he is the Tolkien expert. But
that's I'm glad that that's the reason why he got fired. I didn't know that was the reason, but that's NDAs are there for a reason.
Yes. Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Anyways,
like if you sign one, you can't break
it. You don't break illegal. That. It's a non-disclosure agreement. It's not a disclosure agreement. It's not, so William Morris, he's awesome. The House of the Wolffiends is mostly actually in. He's funny. He calls it a prose romance, but it's actually mostly in verse. I was like halfway through that book, and I was like, "Wait, is this all going to be in verse?" And then it's probably not actually like that. But that book is extremely poetry heavy. It's really good. The main characters are Goths. I don't know if he calls them that ever, and the bad guys are. Actually, I think the bad guys in that one are Romans. I could be wrong on that. I know in the second book the bad guys are Huns, and how he describes the Huns is how Tolkien describes orcs, which I guess is a little problematic these days. So
wow.
Did you know Attila the Hun was named after? It was a Gothic name. Attila means little daddy. Of all things, Atta means dad, right? So you can kind of see that there.
With Ella being a modifier, yeah.
Yeah, it's a diminutive. Okay. Just like if you ever read the Gothic Bible, which I recommend, it's online, by Wolfilas, or Uphilas as his Greek name is. His name is Wolfila, which is, he's half Goth, just means little wolf, right? So anyways, William Morris, he's a Chad. Speaking of Gothic stuff, Tolkien is literally the only surviving, I think, Gothic poetry is written by Tolkien. So it's not surviving. Tolkien wrote it. So,
wow. Yeah, interesting.
I want to share it some days. I need to freshen up on my Gothic pronunciations, because Gothic is a little different. But I have this cool notebook that I have all my philology notes in. So. And I have a Gothic. Hey, look, it's right there. I turned to it. Wow.
Impressive.
The AI is an S sound, and AU is a A sound, and the EI is an E sound, which is not phonetic.
Tolkien uses a U as an A sound as well, like an AW, like awe type sound for some of his languages, anyways.
Oh, really?
So that one's familiar to me.
Totally blanking on that. Interesting.
I read it in one of the books. Should be Lord of the Rings, because that's the one that's got all the appendices in it.
That makes sense, yes.
I read through the appendices this time specifically because I wanted to get as much refresher knowledge on Second Age stuff and on language stuff and on all that kind of stuff as I could, without going and actually studying it. It would be super fun to study it, but I don't have the time for that or the money for that. So I went through and I found out a bunch of things about Tolkien's languages and how they're correct pronunciation and stuff that I didn't know, like the DH being a th sound or a th sound. And so knowing that, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense now. So
yeah, that's the one that always throws me off, because isn't Galad freak. I don't freaking remember what it is. The Galadrim is how I always said it, but
So that's one of those, which I believe is tree. Galad is tree.
Is it?
I think so.
Maybe.
I'm not positive about that, but there's something, because they're like the tree, the Gladrim or Galathrim or whatever is like the tree warriors or something, warriors of the tree or dwellers of the tree or something like that. I don't remember it all now. I had it all figured out when I was reading through stuff, but I've forgotten it now.
Yeah,
that was 3 months ago or whatever, 4 months.
I learned that one late too. but it's handy to know. So,
Well, I mean, because you'll hear if you like. I watch a couple Tolkien YouTubers, specifically Men of the West is the one that I really like. And he'll be talking about something and saying the names of them, and like I don't recognize that name, but then knowing that it's a sound, not a duh, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I know what you're talking about now, and because I can piece it together and put it together, and that's cool for me too.
Yeah.
That I've been able to figure that kind of stuff out on my own, which
Yeah.
other people have done it way better and easier and faster than I have. But
Right. Yeah.
I don't devote that much time to it.
Huh.
So.
Yeah, that's well. You should know.
I should devote more, probably.
There are some cool websites that I think Ambar Eldarin is like good for dictionary stuff, and Tekindil is good for like transliteration into like Tingwar and the different modes. I used that one actually on my Tolkien book collection video I did forever ago, and I'm pretty sure it says like one author to rule them all or something like that. And I don't think anyone noticed the Tingwar on the thumbnail. So,
oh well,
that's okay. I know it's there.
Yeah.
Anyways,
it's an Easter egg for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. One day, like 20 years from now, someone
did you notice the reference to the Dragon Helm of Dorloman? I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Wait, in Rings of Power?
Yeah, in the House of Durin. One of the heads that comes running around. I'm pretty sure is the Dragon Helm of Dorloman. At least it looks like it. Let me grab some.
Oh, that'd be cool. The one thing, I kind of mentioned it earlier. But...
I saw it in the video. I'm like, was that what I think it was? And it's this helmet right here.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it was that helmet that
I didn't
different. It had like a dwarven mask on it, which I do like the dwarven masks that they incorporated that.
Yeah, they look like
they look strange, but at the same time it makes sense.
Yeah, crap. They almost look like how I like Hammurabi's like face, but also mixed with like a early Anglo-Saxon like helmet thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're meant to terrify orcs. They're designed to terrify orcs, so like they're pretty terrifying. Anyways, it was just something that I noticed, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." I'm glad I caught that one.
I didn't notice that one. I gotta rewatch that part. But yeah, something I was mentioning earlier about like her Galadriel's name. I was so hoping when Finrod was talking to her, I was like, call her Nerwin or whatever her father name was, because no, Nerwin is her father name. No, I don't know. Call her father name or her mother name. I don't know, because she's a kid. She wouldn't have the name Galadriel.
She wasn't Galadriel yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Which is a shame in my mind, because Galadriel was given to her by Celeborn, and he's just not there. But everyone knows her as Galadriel. Well, it doesn't work if she's not Galadriel, essentially. So
if you would have called her by a different name, then later on nobody would have known that it was Galadriel.
Yeah.
That the little girl was Galadriel, all that kind of stuff.
But it would have
also
been so
that conversation doesn't make sense either. Like, because he says, I won't always be here to tell you them. I'm like, excuse you? How would you know that? You don't know that yet.
Yeah, man.
You have no foresight yet. You don't have any knowledge of death, which she says that immediately after. We had no word for death, or whatever she says. But still, he wouldn't know that he wouldn't have always been there. He'd have no way of knowing that. And I'm trying to remember, didn't the elves awake on Middle Earth and then come to Valinor?
Yeah, they did.
Okay. And there was some... Okay.
Some of them probably died, if I were to guess.
Yeah.
Orcs probably killed some of them.
Well, no, not necessarily. Because orcs wouldn't have been around until Melkor Morgoth came to Middle Earth. Because he can't create, but he corrupts something. Yeah, but they wouldn't have died before... They probably wouldn't have died before...
Well, he would have corrupted him first, so we know they obviously got molested in some way, right? And I guess I am assuming that they could have died.
There's a lot of things a lot of questions that I've got now, because I'm trying to remember the timeline. So the timeline starts with the world in darkness, right? I mean, obviously singing the earth into existence, and then the world in darkness with just the stars. But then the two trees are created, or is it?
There's lamps.
Is it
first,
the lamps?
actually.
The lamps first. So it's lamps first, and then the two trees, and then at the death of the two trees, the sun and the moon are created.
Yes.
Are set in the sky. So
wait, the
Galadriel
world is still
was
flat
born
at this point, huh?
The world is still flat. With, yeah, that's one thing that I noticed too.
Well,
I was like, why is it hidden? Okay, I'm timeline. My timeline in my head for this stuff is all messed up.
The elves don't awake until after the trees are made, because they awake on Middle Earth or on the shores of Cuivenin. I think that's how you say it. And
sounds right.
The reason, if you remember, their name is the Eldar, which Tolkien's so stinking clever. Anyways, like the way he says like Eldar, it makes it sound like they're the oldest, but it also means like the people of the stars, I think, because when they awoke, they're staring up at the sky and what they see is the stars, because there's no daylight essentially, and they're just like Elah or whatever, which means stars. That's how you know that it's the tree time, because then they go and then they
but then they travel. But then there's the dark elves, who are the ones who never saw the light of the trees. They're the ones that stayed on Middle Earth.
The Avari,
and then there's the Teleri, who I don't remember which ones the Teleri are, but they're the ones that.
That's most of them, actually.
There's something about it, because those are the ones that Fëanor, I think, was the one who killed a bunch of them in the first kinslaying at Alqualande, I believe,
think so.
and stole their ships and headed back to Middle Earth after Morgoth stole the Silmarils.
Well, the Teleri get sundered several times. So like, there's the elves. They get sundered into 4 groups.
There's
the
so many.
Vanyar, Noldor, Teleri. They're actually called something else too, if you remember. Oh, there's originally 3 groups. I don't remember what the heck those are called. It doesn't matter. And then when Orome, is that his name, comes?
The hunter.
Yeah, so he comes,
whatever.
And then they get divided into 4 groups. The one that wants to stay, so the Avari, the Dark Elves, and then the Vanyar, who all go to Middle Earth, none ever leave, and except for with the host of Arda to go fight the War of Wrath. And Ingwe is their leader. By the way, Ing is the name of a Germanic god. Frey, or Freyr, if you know Freyr from Norse mythology. Freyr just means Lord. Ing is his name. Or it's Ingvian, or Ingvi if you're speaking later Old Norse. Anyway, so he's totally named after Freyr, which is cool. And then you have the Noldor, who is what Galadriel is. A lot of them get exiled. I don't know if all of them do. I don't think all of them do. And then the Teleri are the largest group and the most confusing one, because they get sundered several times. They get to the Misty Mountains, and some are like, heck no, not crossing those mountains. And so they become the Wood Elves, basically. They're the Nandor and the
Sylvan.
Lyquindi. Sylvan. Sylvan's totally a Latin word, though. So but
I think that's also a Sindarin word. Sylvan is Sindarin.
But because Tolkien's clever again, right?
He's too smart.
And then some go to the shore, and they're like, "No way, we don't want to cross this ocean," and they become the Sindar.
Thingol is one of those. Thingol, who marries Melian, who's a Maya.
Yeah, and his name is Elu Thingol. I think his name's Elwë. Originally,
Elwë, yeah. Or
he's the brother.
That might be his brother. His brother might be El. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah.
I think I might be misremembering. Right. A lot of these elves have several names. So, and then the ones who actually go across the sea, they get to Tolaresia and I guess we'll just stay in Tolaresia and not go to Valinor or whatever. Close enough. And they're the Teleri, or Celeborn is a Teleri. He's the one who names Galadriel. Galadriel's name is a Sindarin version of her Telerin name, which is the coolest stinking Elvish name in all of Tolkien Legendarian, because it's Alatariel, and I was like, that is a cool freaking name. And I'm so sad that they didn't put it anywhere in the show.
Glorfindel's a pretty cool name too. Glorfindel's another one of my favorite.
That's a good one too.
Names,
yeah. But Alatariel, man, you just don't beat it.
It's a cool name. There's a lot of, there's so much of it that rereading the Silmarillion, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And I mean, there's just so much to it, and
Yeah,
it's
heck,
really cool hearing the
even
people
Finrod's
who
death.
know it so that have it so ingrained in their mind that they can just spout it out in conversation. I'm like, I don't remember any of that, and I've only read the Silmarillion twice, so I shouldn't be too hard on myself.
You're above me. I've only read it once, but
you're remembering it better than I am. So
what I did before I ever read Silmarillion, for years I would literally just devour the Tolkien wikis.
yeah,
I'd read the pages.
I've done that.
All the
Well,
time.
I actually did that with Star Wars. So I wrote a Star Wars fan fiction, and I would just like sit on something and scroll through it, read the whole page, and then go on a tangent, read this whole page, and like end up spending hours doing that. I'm like, oh, I need to be writing this, or I need to be doing this, or doing school, because there's a lot of that.
Right.
But
yeah,
that was fun.
Yeah.
I think I know more about Star Wars than I do Lord of the Rings or Tolkien, which is sad because I like Tolkien more than I like Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Star Wars is number 2. Tolkien's number 1. Star Wars is number 2. But in terms of knowledge of them, I have them flopped.
It's interesting. I'm not a big fan of Star Wars, actually, which is probably sacrilegious to many people. But.
I mean, there's... Yeah. I'll leave it at that. No, I could talk about Star Wars. I've got enough knowledge of it that I could talk just about endlessly with Star Wars. And I mean, even then tying it into Lord of the Rings and making the conversation even longer, and how there's similarities between the two, and then tie in Harry Potter, there's another one. Can't think of what the other one is, but there's a fourth one that just ties right in and is basically the same story. And I mean, that's of the ones that I've read. There's several that I haven't. I mean, I haven't read Hero of a Thousand Faces, which is Joseph Campbell. I haven't read that, but that's kind of where
everyone knows it, though.
Everybody knows it, yeah. I need to read it sometime just to have it.
It's crazy how much information just gets diffused, and then at the same time, it's crazy how much information doesn't get diffused in my mind. Like, because when I read a lot of the stuff that I got interested in philology because of Tolkien, and like when I read a lot of it, I was like, how did I not know this? I was like, this is like the coolest thing I've ever heard, and like why am I only hearing about it now? That happens all the time. Actually, it's quite sad, but you know, that is what it is. So, but I sorry, this is a change in topic. I know Sir Gawain's probably your favorite Arthurian literature piece, but what's your second favorite?
You're lagging pretty bad right now.
Okay.
Okay. What did I miss? What were you saying?
Okay, so I think Sir Gawain and the Green Knight's probably your favorite Arthurian piece. What's like your second favorite?
Yep.
If you can name it.
Probably Colin and Olwen, which is an old Welsh Arthurian tale, and it's just wild, and wacky, and out there, but it's so fun.
What's it called?
It's super short. Colin and Olwen, so CULWCH or CUHLWCH or something like that, and Olwen OLWEN, both Welsh names, but it's a 30-page story or something like that, and it's just wild. It's like things like it's basically a complete all these different parts of a quest to gain King's daughter or something like that type thing. And so Arthur's cousin comes to Arthur and he's like, hey, can you help me complete all these things? And Arthur's like, sure, let's go do them. And so they go off and tromping all through Great Britain and like pulling people out of their houses and chopping their heads off or splitting them in half or just like dumping them in pits and clipping off their fingernails and just like, what is going on? But it's crazy. And it's fun. Super short, but that was a really fun one. I've always really liked the character of Tristan and his story. As I've gotten older, specifically this last through this Arthurian class, my appreciation of him has diminished, but I still like him as a character. Like he's done some pretty messed up things. But I do like the Tristan story, and probably those three are my favorite that I've read so far, that I've gone through so far.
That's pretty good. I am actually severely lacking on my Arthurian stuff. I might have read. I've actually read this Colwick and Olin one. If it was in the version of the Mabinogion, I read.
It might be. It might be.
But I read that forever ago too. So
Yeah.
I need to reread that actually.
I need to read that. I haven't read that one yet.
Oh yeah, I used to read a lot of those. Like I love the Mabinogion. I never finished the Thoin. Though I did read something that went over the whole story of Cuchulainn. Cuchulainn's probably one of my favorite mythical figures, alongside like Beowulf. Yeah, Beowulf, man. Anyways, let's not talk about him again. I'll never stop. Cuchulainn's a really cool Irish one. The Thoin is an Irish epic as well. The Thoin Bo Cooley, I think, is its full name. It's spelled the Tang. That's how you spell it. If anyone watching is curious. Tain is Thoin. Anyways, because Irish phonetics don't make any sense.
Because Irish.
So yeah, Irish is one of the most confusing languages ever, in my opinion. Coming from someone who likes language. Actually, Celebrimbor is taken from an Irish myth. Wada, I think, is an Irish god. His name, his sobriquet, as it were, is I don't know. It's Silverhand, basically. I don't remember the Irish. Sorry, now at least. And that's what Celebrimbor means. But
yeah,
so.
I mean, I guess I should throw in Merlin as another one of my favorite Arthurian ones.
Yes. Good man.
That one tells a great story. Whether or not you like it because it's accurate to the books or whatever, there's no one definitive Arthurian legend, and as such, Merlin is a great show. It tells a phenomenal story.
Yeah.
So
it's stinking fantastic. I love Merlin. I'm almost done with my third rewatch right now.
Yeah.
Merlin is.
I rewatched the finale a couple nights ago, and I was like, man, this show.
I have the first book here.
Very nice.
Though,
have I pitched you my follow-up to this show? I've actually got two. So I've got like a series of anthologies, and then I've got a follow-up or like a sequel to this show. So the series of anthologies would be like set during the reign of King Arthur. So bring back all the cast. You know why I say that. Bring back all the cast, and then just have like a season that tells Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, tell their take on that story, or do something like that. Gawain. Don't have to have Merlin in every episode. Just have like a anthology series or a couple episodes, 4 episodes or something that you can take and go tell these stories. Have a couple seasons of that would be nice. 5 would be lovely. Yeah. And then the sequel series is set during World War I and Albion's greatest hour of need. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
So anyone
my watching this wants to pick up T's pitch here.
I mean, the cast is just so good, and the storytelling is so good. And I mean, some of those other stories I'd have loved to see their takes on them, like specifically Gawain and the Green Knight, because Owen Mackin is a good Gawain. It's a very good Gawain.
Yeah, no, he is. No, that show is good. I like that show. You know what? One thing I always thought was funny. Maybe this will get me canceled for saying. I just think it's ironic, and that's why it's funny. But Elyon, he's like the one with the sobriquet of the white. And he's the only black one. Anyways, it's not like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like even that. So if you tried to tell that same story with Guinevere and Elyon and their dad not being a blacksmith, it wouldn't have worked because most other stories she's a princess. If you would have made Guinevere the princess that she's supposed to be, because she's like an Irish princess or a Pictish princess or something like that. I don't remember. I think it changes depending on what version of the story you read. And so if you would have done that, it would have made sense for them to be black characters. But by taking them and changing their origin to be blacksmiths, they can be whatever you want them, whatever ethnicity you want them to be. And because of that, it works. But again, that comes into storytelling, and does this work with the world that exists? Because if not, why are you doing it? Which is something that I mention in my video, because there's no black elves in Valinor. So where does Arondir come from? Which I guess if all the elves didn't go to Valinor, there could be some of that. Just like think a little bit about what you're doing. Don't just diversity cast for the sake of diversity casting. That's not what you should be doing anyways, because that doesn't serve the story. So, I mean, that'll probably get me canceled, but
I'm trying to remember where
not afraid
Arondir and Bronwyn are on the map.
Tir Harad. It's behind Mordor. Behind Mordor, which is where they place them on the map. Technically, so I would place that just below the bottom wall of Mordor, or even to the southwest corner of Mordor, down in that area, closer towards Umbar, which Umbar is a little bit northern still, but that's more where I would have placed Tir Harad. But it's fine, whatever they wanted to do. It's so in Unfinished Tales, it talks about the breakdown of the locations, and it's basically it goes into the names of Gandalf, and at one point he says Encanas, I believe, was his name in the south. And so it goes and talks about what that south would mean, and that's basically everything below Gondor and Mordor down to the south would be the south, and everything above that would be the north. So Gondor, Arnor, Eriador, everything above that is the north. And that, taking that, I would say, like, you've got a whole chunk of the planet down there that would be the south. That would be considered the south. And what they use in the show is just like this little teeny tiny strip, because that's all of the map that they've got from Lord of the Rings. And I'm like, okay, I guess you're right. But so
poor people. I do remember a couple of years ago when they were announcing like the show, and they I think they started in Mordor and they were zooming out slowly, and then they zoomed out to show Numenor, and they're like, "Welcome to the Second Age," and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be awesome." Obviously a lot of stuff happened between them, but yeah. Anyways, this is another jump in a topic. Sorry, right. It's kind of a jump back as far as like Arthurian stuff goes. So, well, it's kind of related to Arthurian stuff. You recently read Leoness. Actually, are you done with The Green Pearl?
I haven't finished it yet. I'm about halfway through. I kind of got slowed down. I don't remember what slowed me down, but I got.
What do you think of that in Vance?
I like Vance so far.
I got my copies right here.
He's so Soldier's Garden was really good. Kind of weird. There was a lot of fairy tale-ness to it. Have I done my review for those yet? I don't think I have. Those should be. So. Let me see. Where's my list? Where am I at? I just did. Okay, so yeah, I'm all of July and all of August behind still. Haven't filmed and reviewed. Well, that's not true. I filmed Baden Hill.
Okay, yeah. I just got to July myself.
Yeah. I need to get them written, because 2 months ago I'm starting to forget details and having a hard time writing reviews. So I need to get better at that and get caught up on my review writing. But so
I write while I'm reading, so that's what helps me.
1, 2, and then 3. I'm 3 books away, 4 books away. 4 reviews away from Soldier's Garden. So Soldier's Garden will be 4. But it's very fairy tale like. There's a lot that just reminds me of fairy tales or Celtic stories and Irish stories and stuff like that. Because I mean, I used to listen to a lot of them, a lot of retellings growing up, and so I know the genre, I guess you could call it, the tropes, some of them and stuff like that. And so seeing them in this story that's so clearly pre-Arthurian, like fits directly into that world, but then takes from all these other things like the she and all that kind of stuff and how it's tied into the very world and fantasy and everything about it. And it's very interesting to me and very cool to me, but it's also really fun. And then it gets weird at times and you're like, I don't understand this, but I like it. So that's kind of what I felt with Kolok and Olin. Is it just wacky and weird, but fun? And
Vance does wacky very well. I think there is one point. Yeah, there's some parts in Soldier's Guardian. I was just like, what? Someone wrote that on a page.
Yeah.
There was one. There's one part where I think he says something like gigantic genital or something. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, what? I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Why not? I guess. No, I've read. So this is Soldier's Guardian was my 5th book by Vance. I've read the Dying Earth ones, which are 4 books. This omnibus. These are weird too. But in like a funky sort of way and just like funny. I mean, I love these books. There's one point in the 2nd book where he comes across a man that has a 30-foot long finger, right? So I mean, like, like he doesn't explain it. He's just like, oh yes, the guy with a 30-foot long finger is like, okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah. That's pretty much how old tales are like. They're just like, oh yeah, there's just this thing. No need for an explanation. It just is.
Why would I need to explain? But
I mean, that's like
that ruins the magic.
What is it? Is it Iolus? Is that the prince's name? Prince Iolus?
Yeah.
Where he goes up to the magician and has to go through all the trials to get up to the magician's castle or whatever. And so like there's the lady with the chicken feet and the fox's head or something like that, and that he has to cut in half and leave one half on one side of the river. However that works, and then he's got like 3 other things that he has to do to get up there, and I'm like, I don't understand any of this, but okay, we'll go with it.
Okay.
And it's fun.
No, yeah, it's very fun. I think.
Vance. So Green Pearl, you've started in Green Pearl at least, right?
I haven't actually started it yet.
You haven't? Okay, I won't say anything then.
I should.
But
yeah, I think the last one, Mad Duke or whatever. Yeah, I think that won a World Fantasy Award actually. Wow. So.
I mean, I could understand why. He's a very good writer, very good storyteller. So.
Yeah, he only passed away in like 2013, I think, too. So it was actually his birthday the other day. I missed it. Sad. Oh, it's actually the anniversary of Tolkien's death, by the way.
I've seen stuff about that, which I think we've talked enough about Tolkien today, so that's good.
Yeah, probably. Anyways, no, Vance is cool. Actually, Vance is like super influential, but not a lot of people. If you watched my my version of, I think you did. So my modern literary canon tag. His form of magic is in Dying Earth is where Dungeons and Dragons gets its magic, and also if anyone is familiar with Stranger Things season 4, or just the D&D villain Vecna. That is just Vance's name rearranged, and Gygax, who made D&D, or one of the makers of D&D, or who made Vecna, did that on purpose. So, Vance is a pretty important fella. I think he's probably most famous for the Dying Earth, and there's one about dragons, and I don't freaking remember what it's called, and I never do anytime I need to mention it. But
I'll find it eventually.
That's pretty popular too. I can't remember what that's called.
Anything with dragons, I'll eventually find, probably.
Yeah, I've seen that one around a lot. Actually, I think it's probably his most popular one, but not among people I actually talk to apparently. So, but.
Let's see. There's something I was going to say if I can remember it. Probably not. No, I can't remember it. If it comes to me, I'll mention it.
That's fine. No, yeah. Vance is I have a couple other series that I want to read by him, like Demon Princes. The first book is The Star King. I hear it's like a surrealistic revenge sci-fi, and there's also this one series that I just found, and well, I won't show the first cover because it basically has a naked woman on it. But sure, it's the second and third book. And I don't even know what the heck this series is about, but it's cool.
Those are the ones that you don't feel comfortable reading in public.
Right, exactly. I know. I feel like I embarrass my wife all the time when I have like an old school like sword and sorcery book in my hand. I was like, yeah, sorry. Obviously, I don't agree with the artist. Like I didn't choose to put the naked lady on the cover. So, and the guy with huge thews, put it, in the right proper word, not muscles, thews. So, anyways, yeah. I'm glad because some don't do that. Some don't do that. That like, I think of like the Moorcock stuff doesn't have like damsels in distress, or lots of Liebert doesn't. At least his Fafhrd the Grey Master stuff. So you should read Fafhrd the Grey Master, by the way. I'm just gonna take one chance to recommend that. But
yeah, I've got a bunch of recs from you and Owen and David.
Yes, I don't think we'll stop. So
probably not. That's all right. It's fine. I may get to them at some point. I just read slow.
No, that's fine. The sad thing is when a lot of these, sometimes I don't feel like reading a book, and it's sad when they don't have like an audio version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very sad. I don't like that. It happens actually a lot with based off the books I actually like to read. There's a lot of times not an audio version. Which is really sad. But
if they're in the public domain, do an audio version for yourself. Or hire someone.
Okay, yeah, I could
just
do
tell
that.
someone, read it out loud, and then start something. Well,
yeah,
that's something that I wouldn't mind getting
public
into.
Domains, like 75 years?
It depends. Depends on the copyright. I think 75 years are most of them, but some of them are 100 years.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, yeah.
But Winnie the Pooh's in public domain now.
Winnie the Pooh is
except
now...
Tigger. Except Tigger.
What?
Tigger's not. Yeah, because he didn't come in till a couple years later.
Oh.
Apparently. But
shame. Yeah, I wonder if like John Carter's in the public domain.
Probably, unless Disney. If Disney has the
I wonder if Disney got the
copyright, then it's probably not.
Shame. Oh, look. Okay, I wasn't going to talk about this, but since I caught it on my bookshelf, most of my books, my shelves are like double or triple faced, so I can't grab books off really easily. But I found a great Arthurian book. I think I've recommended it before, but I'll recommend it in video, talking to you live right now. Sword and Sunset by Rosemary Sutcliffe.
Okay.
Have you ever seen the movie The Eagle?
Yep.
It's not based off this book, but it's based off another book by her.
It's The Eagle of the Ninth. Yeah, I've read The Eagle of the Ninth. It's really good.
Yeah,
so what's it called?
It's called Sword at Sunset. It's a standalone. It's actually one of her few adult fictions. Most of hers are kids' books, technically, right? But so I have this old Torah version, which my dad this is my dad's copy. He had to read this for a Arthurian lit class, and I saw it on his bookshelf, and he let me have it. So, but I read this when I was a sophomore. I remember reading this in like Latin class. I love this book. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So
we've got several Sutcliffe. I want to read more, but
there's no audible version of this. I remember when I first started getting audiobooks, the first thing I looked for was this because I wanted to reread it, and I thought listening to it would be nice. I was like, and it doesn't exist. So, big sad, big sad.
Yeah.
Big. So that's I think this is where I learned that Arthur is like his Latin version of Arthur is Artorias. So, pretty good book. It's more historical fiction. Rather than legendary, so take that as you will. I thought there was
I like some of that. So there's a book called Black Horses for the King, and I don't remember who it's written by off the top of my head. I can't remember who it's written by off the top of my head, but it's like story about the blacksmith who
Anne McCaffrey?
Yeah, that's who it is. Yeah, Anne McCaffrey. And anyways, I really liked that one. And it's a more historical fiction about the person who may have been the real King Arthur type thing. So I don't know. I like that one. That one was fun.
So
I think that might be the only McCaffrey that I've read, because I haven't read any of her.
Oh, really?
Dragon, whatever her Dragon series is, Dragon Riders.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
I haven't read any of that. But
I like this a lot, though. I think I'd appreciate it a lot more now. Maybe I could do a reread. Maybe I could do a reread with you.
Well, I'd have to get it.
Yes, this is
and
fair.
if it's not on Audible, then that makes it difficult.
That means it'll take you 6 months to get through the physical. No, I don't know.
Well, how many pages is it?
No, it's let's see. Actually, it is almost 500. Wait, maybe it is 500. No, 498.
That's not too terribly bad. It
could be worse.
I'm going real slow. 1,000 books or 1,000 pages is a month if I'm reading consistently at normal speed. So it takes me a full month to get through a Sanderson most of the time.
Yeah.
But
I'm pretty slow through my stuff right now. I'm reading I have been reading a Ultima novel by Lynn Abbey recently. I'm reading that thing forever. But it's really good, so I'm okay with that. But I like Lynn Abbey.
The longest book that I think that I've ever taken to read, I think was, I'm not going to say the name and I'm not going to say the author because it's a small author, and so I don't want to damage her by saying it. But it was like, it started out really strong, and then like quarter of the way in, it just like, I was like, I have no interest in this book. But I was reading it for a book club, so I couldn't stop. And so like I pushed through, and it was hard to get through, and it took me probably close to 2 months, and it's only like a 300-page book or less.
Yeah.
Like, I can't hate when that happens. I haven't read the sequels.
I hate when that happens. Yeah, I hate it, especially when it seems like it's not. Well, it's one thing actually when it's the book itself. It's another thing when it's just like my mood. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't hate this book so much if I was just reading it at a different time or something.
I think there's probably part of that would have helped, but it started out so strong and then just like nosedived real fast for me.
That's a shame. Shame.
Cool setup, cool world, cool setup, but it just didn't work for me.
Okay, that's interesting. I guess I won't ask what it is.
If you want, if you want to know, I'm happy to tell you.
Maybe you can tell me off camera. No. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Anyways, it's funny though. I think that makes me curious now when you mentioned though the audiobook thing. This came out in the 60s, so it's not in the public domain. So, but
you can probably Google it and find out.
That is true. How dare you suggest productive means of finding out things? I wonder if like Conjure Wife by Liber has an audiobook.
I don't know. Quick Google search didn't pop it up. I'd have to do some more looking into it, but it's probably not yet. I think Sutcliffe is still alive and working, so
I don't think so. I don't think she is alive.
Okay.
Can look it up, I guess. Rosemary Sutcliffe.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
You know, when I think of Sutcliffe, I think of this guy.
Died in 92.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Wow. That was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think when I hear Sutcliffe, I think of John D. Ratliff. I think that's his name.
It's a different person.
Yes, exactly. But I think of that guy's name because his name ends in liff, just like Rosemary Sutcliffe.
Yeah.
But he is actually a Tolkien scholar. He wrote the history of The Hobbit, I think.
Interesting.
Which I don't have. Which is a big shame.
An edition of The Hobbit in Latin.
Oh yeah,
I almost bought it. It was unfortunately it was at Barnes and Noble, so it was expensive. But yeah, if it hadn't been, I probably would have bought it. If
No,
somebody
yeah,
wanted to buy it for me,
that'd be a fun
I'd
thing
be
to have.
happy.
That'd be a
I
fun
can't
thing
read
to have.
Latin, but it would be fun to have anyways.
Yeah, well, my Latin is like very, very subpar.
I mean,
I
I
generally use it for etymology purposes, but
I could probably figure it out because I know the Hobbit so well because I have
yeah.
I have Spanish that I can use, and I've done very, very teeny tiny little bit of Latin back in, I don't know,
Yeah,
a long
I
time
love
ago.
how Tolkien translates names for his
Mhm.
translations. It's like Bilbo and
Yeah.
like for example, I have the French version of The Hobbit, Le Hobbit. Um,
Uppbeat.
um, French is confusing, man. I figured out a couple years ago that you know that they don't have say H's in French, and so generally it's an L apostrophe before an H because you don't say that. It's like the H isn't there, essentially. But some words it's not. So like the Hobbit, it's not. It's not L apostrophe Hobbit. It's LE space Hobbit. I was like, why? It's like you don't say the H still. Um, and okay, this is completely off topic. Sorry. Anyways, this is my language thing coming in. But it's because they're loan words. I think it's Germanic words. They put the actual article like la or la, and not an L apostrophe for whatever reason. I think so. It's the same with hero. It's la hero. Um, anyways, but and not le hero. So, uh, anyways, but yeah, and anyways, in the French Hobbit, Bilbo's name is Bilbo Saquet. I think you say. I think it might be Sac. Maybe Sac. I don't know how to say.
It's
So I'm
French.
not
Nobody
sure
knows
how
how
to
to
say
say
it.
it.
So, well, French is confusing, man. It's not consistent enough, or else that's why
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Saquet or Sac, but
There's
it could be
uh,
either one. But
but
especially
I
names.
also
Names are less consistent than the other things in French, because it's just like, yeah, I don't know what generally there should be like an E or something after their, or like the thing in French, since there's so many silent letters, the rule is it's careful if it ends in a C, an R, an F, or an L, you say those and if it ends in some other consonant, you don't say it. Um, and but that doesn't always hold true.
yeah.
So I don't whatever.
But I mean, Tolkien, like, he translates the names of the characters from their names from Middle Earth into English, and just
Yes.
like, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
like what the heck
whatever,
is Frodo's name's like Moira, I think.
something, yeah. And then Hobbit is Kubuk or whatever,
Yeah.
and you're just
Yes.
like, so stupid. Because then when you think about it in those terms, you're like, Hobbit, that Kubuk does not fit their personality at all. Hobbit
No.
is what they are. They're not a Kubuk or whatever.
Yeah. You know what?
It changes everything.
You mentioned that story earlier, actually, and when I looked it up again, but the Colwick and Olwen is actually found in the Red Book of Hengist, or Hengist, if you want to say it in Old
Okay.
English. But like the Red Book of Westmarch, where the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings are found. Anyway, so.
But I think I don't know. Is Tolkien one of the first people to do that, where he acts as if he's translating something? Because I know there's been a lot of other people since then.
Yeah, it happens decently often now.
Even like, what's his name, Rick Riordan. All
really
Percy Jackson and everything is taken as if it's real and just translated. I think Harry Potter is too, actually.
What? Okay.
Taken in as if it's
a lot of that doesn't like play
real,
a big part,
and then put into. No, it doesn't. Even in Tolkien, it doesn't. But
no, yeah,
it just kind of like changes the setting, makes it. Oh yeah, this is actually real. You guys don't know about it, and so now I'm here to tell you about it.
Yeah, Tolkien
it's kind of cool.
Good job of it, because it's antediluvian. So for all you know, if you knew nothing, then that could be real, right? So, it's the same actually in Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe. And actually, the way it's hilarious. There's a, like, he puts like this end notes at the end of like each book that he's translating it from a tongue that doesn't exist yet, which is funny. Which is, and so he like he uses a lot of. He actually doesn't make up any words if you read the Book of the New Sun. It's full of like the weirdest vocabulary ever, but he doesn't make up any of them. He's pulling them from different languages and like archaic words and other things. So, and it's because he wants to make you feel weird. because the future is supposed to be unrecognizable. So it's like throw you off balance type of thing with all these weird words. And but they also will say like this is not the same. Like I think he'll describe like some animals a destrier, which would be like a horse or whatever, right? But it's not. He's basically what he's saying. It's like not actually a horse. It's not something you would recognize, but it does fulfill a similar purpose. So that's why I use that word, basically. Anyways, he says he's translating it from a language that doesn't exist yet, but you're just like, how did you get this book type of thing? And then in the 5th book, which is the Coda, he explains it because the main character, who is being a freaking idiot at the beginning of the 1st book, is on a spaceship, and he goes on the outside of the spaceship in a spacesuit, and he's like, I'm just going to walk around, and then he almost dies because he flies off, and he's holding his stinking book that he wrote, the Book of the New Sun, and he loses it. Well, the spaceship travels through time, so that's how Gene Wolfe got it right, because the book somehow ended up to Gene Wolfe in the 80s, and so like, and that's how he got it, which it's so dumb. So he doesn't say that. It's not like, oh yes, and so that's how this future fellow is going to get it, because obviously he doesn't, or this past fellow, because he doesn't know that, you know what I mean? But like, if you're paying attention, it's like, okay, well, that's how Gene Wolfe got the book, like so.
Yeah. So then that makes you wonder, how was he able to translate it if you didn't know?
I don't know.
I mean, because like we have a hard enough time translating languages that have existed, because most of the time there's not enough information to what they were to translate them now. So interesting stuff.
Well, a lot of that has to do with relatives, so like, let's say like this future language is like obviously related to English. I think that'd be hard to judge, because that's obviously not how it works. You don't translate future languages. But like at the same time, in some ways, it's actually impressive how much we do know. I say that because like philologists did some pretty impressive things in the 19th century. Right, the foundation Tolkien was building off of when he was growing up and going to school. Like one philologist, and I can't remember who the heck it was. I want to say Saussure, but it totally wasn't Saussure. The guy's kind of a jerk. Anyways, but he's a jerk because he likes linguistics over philology. That's why he's a jerk. Anyways, but you probably don't understand, and I'm not going into it. But but there, and it wasn't Saussure, like I said. I don't think it is. It could have been. But there's someone who's like, yes, because they're trying to reconstruct a language that we don't have any proof of, so Proto-Indo-European, right? The proof is in the children languages, right? And it's not actually attested anywhere. And he's like, well, this sound must have existed, basically, like, right? Like we look at this language and this language and this language, even though they don't have this sound. I can't remember what sound it was. It might have been pharyngeals. And he's like, yeah, so this probably existed, at some point. And lo and behold, a few years later, they discover the Hittite language, and it has pharyngeals in it, exactly like how he described, right? So he freaking figured it out before they even discovered the language, right? Because he used his big brain. And so that is why I wanted to be like a philologist, because they're just so stinking smart. And they're just, the problem is that I'm going to go on my little tirade about philology real quick.
Do it.
But the problem with philologists is that they're also idiots. No, that they didn't write anything down. Like, there is no philology textbook. There is literally not a single one. You cannot get a philology textbook. How stupid is that? Anyways, it's like you would think you would kind of want one, but no. Anyways, I would think you'd want one. Anyway, so lo and behold, there are no philologists today, because there's no textbook to read. No, because the method they used was the master apprentice method. Really effective, obviously. The problem is, I've heard it described, is once you break that chain, there's nothing to hold it together, right? So once you have a master that doesn't get an apprentice, then that master eventually dies, and a later apprentice doesn't have a master, so he can't learn it. He literally, like, you see most fields of study, they just go up and up, right? Because they keep on learning things. Philology is the opposite. If you meet a present-day philologist, they know less than a philologist 100 years ago, which is very sad. they might know more about like one word, which is funny. Like they might have made a new discovery on a word that someone 100 years ago didn't, right? That's cool, but whatever. But they know less because there's no one to teach them, which is really sad. Which is why I'm going to go to school for Germanic philology as a master's degree, so I can, make no money. But and
money's
but
not important.
yeah, no, it's fine. No, no, I love philology. But that's the reason it broke is the chain broke. Here we're gonna go into my referencing this again. I had an exchange student stay at my house once for a weekend. Right, I think of my dad's bookshelves, and I remember he walked upstairs and he says, "I see you know the history of my people," because he was looking at the bookshelf with all of my dad's history books on Nazi Germany and had a bunch of swastikas. Anyways, and so Nazis ruined it. Anyways, and so I'm being serious. It sounds funny, but philology was going out of fashion in the early part of the 20th century. For a few reasons. A lot of people saw it out as outdated, largely because of people like Saussure, who Saussure invented the field of linguistics about 100 years ago. Okay? Linguistics is younger than philology. And because linguistics views language differently than philology. Linguistics takes language basically at a stage and it just doesn't care about anything else. Philology is like, oh yes, I'm looking at this word. Tell me all of its ancestors and all its relations, and it's basically culture and history through words. That's essentially philology, right? And which is way cool. Anyway, but in my opinion, in linguistics is very useful for living languages, obviously. And I guess dead languages aren't that interesting to most people. Anyways, there are other big words that go along with this. But anyways, so linguistics was going up in fashion. Philology was like how do I say this? Like the favorite child of many schools. They got a lot of the funding, they got a lot of the money, because it was cool. It was called the science of the humanities because it was more scientific than the rest of the humanities, obviously, but it's still humanities. And so and then it starts going out of fashion though, and that's where that chain gets broken. The nail in the coffin was the Nazis, because the Nazis like philology. They were idiots and used it wrong, obviously, but they left a taint. And so I think Harvard dropped their philology course. No, I think they dropped their philology requirement, because you used to have to take like a history of the English language class. It was required in English-speaking like countries, basically. And then Harvard dropped theirs, and then every school dropped theirs afterwards. So, and now you have a school where you probably don't even have that class, and it's not even close to being required if you do have it. So, so big sad. Anyway, so the problem was then, therefore, that you had the people, the masters, right, who they didn't have to work to get students. It was essentially required stuff, so you knew you were going to get students. You didn't have to recruit anyone, and then all of a sudden it's axed basically completely, and so then you have no students. You're kind of a dick, to put it lightly, because you're so self-important and you're so smart and brain big and charisma skills low, and so philology went. So anyways, that's why when I mention I want to study philology to people, they're like, yeah, what's that? Or they like, okay, and then you can tell they have no clue what I'm talking about. Anyways, so, but anyways, that's my little my philology thing for the day. So Tolkien, Shippey calls it a lot, actually, with the Tolkien wasn't referencing this, I don't think, when he said this, because I can't even remember what he was referencing, but he calls it the long defeat. It's just like, well, I'll keep on fighting, but like in the end, I know I lose, essentially. And that's what Shippey connects with, like philology, right? That philology was dying even when Tolkien was doing it. Tolkien is probably the last like big name philologist out there. So he actually did his biggest philology work, I think he did, besides like his Monsters and Critics, which is only like kind of adjacently philology related, is his transliteration of the An Erudite, which I don't have in here, but I have a copy of. he took a manuscript and he put it, down so everyone could read it. Basically, you don't have to read the manuscript.
Mhm.
So. It's actually really cool because there's like a note at the beginning that's written by someone. It's still in Middle English, but you can tell it's like a later dialect of Middle English. And then he's basically saying, "Hey, this is confusing English. You'll notice that." It's just like, and they use some weird words, and so he gives like common translations of them. And so like you're reading that and you're like, "Wow, this is pretty easy to read." And then you get past the introduction, you're like, "Holy crap, can't read this." It's a really Don Cornelisa. The reason Tolkien did it is because it's really weird dialect of Middle English that is very, very similar. It's very conservative, so it's very similar to Old English. So it's like not easy to understand at all. And it's An Cornelisa means like the rule for nuns. It's a nun's handbook. So.
Okay.
Or it's technically a rule for the Ankrana means anchoresses. You know what an anchoress is?
No, not off
They're
the top
kind
of
of
my
like
head.
nuns. They're nuns that stay in the same room. And that's
okay.
it. Basically, they're basically hermits, but women. Anyways, as you can tell, we've gotten into weird conversations here. We're 2 hours and 20 minutes in.
Good.
It is past midnight for me. I got up before 5 o'clock this morning, but crazy me. Anyways,
sounds like fun.
Oh no. Oh, well, no. But anyways, we could actually probably close unless you have some other things to say. I'm sorry about my little
I'm fine with it.
For like
it's
10
fun.
minutes there. But
it's all right. Saves my voice, makes you have to do it all. No, it's fun. I like it.
I ran out of water.
That's all right. That's why I got the massive water bottle.
Yeah, I should have done that. The last time I drank a bunch of water when I was talking to someone, though, it was with Ed Greenwood. If you've watched that video, and it was hilarious actually because I had to run to the restroom about an hour in, and then he just keeps on talking, and he just says like the funniest stuff while I'm gone. Like all I did was I took the camera and I just kept on zooming into his face because he was just saying some. I think he was talking about. I think he's going off on. He lives in Ontario, like rural Canada, and he was saying how his neighbors like mow the lawn with their tractors, and he's like, so they're mowing the lawn, the grass is super tall, and there's a log, and they can't see it, and so they run it over, and then you just hear an explosion. It's just like what? I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool. It's awesome. Anyways, but so there's another author you should read at some point, Ed Greenwood. He's really weird. You might not like him, but I say weird.
I don't know. I mean, like I'm really willing to try just about anybody.
That's good. That's good. He's got some books that aren't Forgotten Realms, but
I don't know that that's entirely true. There's I really don't have any desire to try George R. R. Martin.
Oh, really?
And my desire to try Abercrombie has been dying.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I just don't care. I don't know. Just everything I've heard about, like A Song of Ice and Fire and everything, just makes me really not care.
Yeah. No,
makes me want to read it less and less, partly because it's so popular that I feel like I need to not read it so that I can be different. But also,
look at me, I'm cool.
There's a lot of content in it that I don't need to read and I don't want to read, and there's enough of it that I've heard about that just the desire to read about dragons is over. I don't know, like it's over. How do I phrase that? What is the phrase that I'm looking for? Whatever it is. The desire to read about dragons isn't enough to overcome the desire to not read about the rest of that stuff. So,
yes, I understand that.
But,
yeah,
that's just me.
I was for a long time I didn't want to read any Martin, and then I did. I actually read the first 3 Song of Ice and Fire books. I don't think I'll read books 4 and 5, and if 6 and 7 ever come out, I don't think I'll read those either. But I have a tendency, I mean, I will admit it. I mean, I think it's very obvious from the content I put on my channel, but I will admit that I am just like adverse to reading popular stuff. So like,
Yeah.
doesn't mean I don't. I mean, I will read something that's popular if it really is interesting, you know. But like sometimes the more people talk about something, regardless of what they're saying, you know, unless it's like sounds super awesome, like, oh, that sounds cool, I want to read that, you know, like it just makes me not want to read it. I mean, which is we're kind of where I am with Joe Abercrombie, because I have never read anything by him, and at this point, he's just so popular that I don't want to be like everyone else. Like that's just my mindset. I've had that mindset for a long time. I call it my anti-conformist, but that comes with a lot of other baggage sometimes. So basically, I just don't. I'm not like other girls, anyways. But so that's basically the idea. At least I don't like.
I think so. When his stuff first started becoming popular on BookTube, that was 3-4 years ago or whatever. Like I was like, okay, I'll add it to the list and maybe eventually get to it one day. And then I think it was Daniel Green interviewed him at one point, and I was like, okay, that sounds cool. I want it made my desire to read his stuff grow a little bit. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll actually plan to do this at some point. And then since then, it's just like I never read it, and I don't buy it, and I don't own it, and I never see it anywhere. So I'm just like, it just keeps dropping, and then I hear more people talking about it, and then like Andrew from Andrew's Wizardly Reads, like, the first couple of books I didn't like at all. So it's just like, I don't know. I don't feel like I need to read it. And maybe I'm missing out on something great, but I mean, there's so much other stuff that I love enough that I don't feel the need to read something that I don't know if I will like at all. So.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I think I'd actually potentially enjoy.
I'm sure there'd be a lot that I would enjoy about his stuff, but I mean, like,
and I might read it. I might read it at some point. As of right now, there are no plans. I do not have copies. Do not plan on getting copies.
Yeah. I mean, like, if I found a free audiobook or something, I'd be far more likely to read it at that point, because it's a free audiobook. But
yes,
I mean, like, there's so much Tolkien that I haven't even read. So much of his other stuff, a lot of his Legendarium, but also just other works outside of that I haven't read of his that I would love to, and I just don't have the time to. I get to them as I get to them. Wheel of Time, I'm slowly working my way through, and I'm interested enough to continue, but I don't think it's going to be a top 5 series ever, top 10 series ever, maybe a top 30, but I'd be on the low end of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I haven't even read 30 series yet, so in completion. So I don't know. I mean, Patrick Rothfuss, I want to read Name of the Wind. That one, the more I hear about it, the more I think I would love it. And so that's one that it keeps coming back, and I keep wanting to read it. But
I think you might like The Name of the Wind. I don't know if you would like A Wise Man's Fear, though. Personally, I actually feel like you would not like the second book.
Yeah.
And I don't give hard advice normally, but just saying, I threw that book in the trash. So I mean, like, I literally threw it in the trash. I really liked the first book, and the second book ticked me off so bad. I was like, trash. Bye. So which is something I've never done before, by the way. I generally donate my books if I don't like them, but I was like, this is just straight garbage. So, anyways, not to try to dissuade you from reading.
No. I mean, I don't know when I'll get to Name of the Wind as it is. I would love for it to be this year, but I've got September planned out. I've got October planned out. I've got November is the only open month that I have at the moment. December is planned out.
I forget you plan your reads out.
I really don't.
I don't know, it's psychotic,
I kind of fell back into it. I'm joking. Because I had Kate pick my TBR for what is it? July, August, September. And so I'm finishing that up. And then October, I'm just a couple books. I don't remember which ones they're going to be reading, but I think I fell into horror. I'm going to start some horror, read The Dead Zone, maybe read Fairy Tale by Stephen King if I can get my hands on it. Kind of, I don't know. There's a couple other ones that I was thinking about, and I don't remember what they are.
Should read this
and
one.
Then, Labor. All right.
Gotta read Our Lady.
November, I don't think I have anything for, but then December, I think I'm going to reread Gawain and Pearl and Sir Orfeo. And then I'm going to reread The Hobbit, and then I'm going to start reading Rune Lords by David Farland.
I actually have a couple of
those. Those are all free on audiobook, I think.
They?
I think so, on Audible.
I don't know where my copies are.
So.
Now that I say I have them.
But Nico and I are going to start reading those, so...
I'm so afraid of starting another big series. I hear good things. Actually, the series is incomplete, I think.
I think it is. Yeah, that's what I was seeing something about.
And he just passed away. Crap, so it's not going to be finished.
So
someone else finishes it, I guess.
What last I heard is that they were wondering if somebody else would finish it, because book 9 was like
Brandon
right
Sanderson
there
coming
done or something
again.
Like that.
No,
I mean, I don't know.
book 9, but it's been a while. Hasn't it been like a decade since he released one?
Yeah,
they got really spotty apparently later in the series.
I think it was. I want to say 2009 when the last one came out, which is Chaos Bound. Chaos Bound.
Oh, okay.
It's called.
I have book 1, 5, and 6. Oh,
I found a handful. Or I found book 1 a couple months back. Bought it because I thought I'd remembered Nico talking about it at one point, and was like, okay. Plus, it's got a nice cover. And then I bought. I found. Is it 7 and 8? Oh, 5.
It'd be interesting to read it because
I found 5 and 8 a couple of weeks ago. So
oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I think I have 5, 6, and 1. I have all of them. I think that'd be interesting because it's probably one of the more influential ones on Sanderson, along with Wheel of Time. You can definitely see Wheel of Time's influence in Sanderson. Sanderson does a way better job, but in my opinion, highly qualified opinion, Wheel of Time is trash. No, anyways. But sorry, you can tell I'm really tired because I'm just like saying stupid stuff. But
doesn't bother me. Say whatever you want.
So I keep on picking up these. My girls left these stuffed animals in here too. So
stuffed animals are nice. I don't have any on my bed or anything with me.
Yeah. Oh wait, there's the Rune Lords right there. It's on my stack on the floor that I forgot about. I have books stacked on the floor right now. I don't know.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so
I just bought 8 of them, like I mentioned, and I just put up a haul like the week before, and so I was like, well, I probably shouldn't do a haul again yet, even though Andy does them like 3 times a month or whatever.
Right. I've said before I don't like doing hauls, and then I turn into doing a haul every week with my. It's not, but I don't advertise it as a haul. It's my weekly update.
It's not a dedicated haul video.
Yeah. So I'm not.
I don't read enough.
Yeah.
To do a weekly update, or else I used to try and do like a bi-weekly or a bi-monthly vlog, I guess.
Yeah.
Back in the early days of the channel, and then
This might go up instead of my weekly update this week, actually. Because I normally record my weekly update right now, but since my girls went to bed later, and so I came like right here once they went to sleep, and then I don't know if I'm gonna. It would be really short. I didn't read that much this week actually, but so I do actually. I'm looking at the stack of books over here. It's got some random books in here. I don't even know what the heck that is. Oh, I have an Isaac Asimov book. That's cool. Arya Salvatore, Iceland 10, Halo books, Tolkien. I have my one odd copy of The Two Towers over there. The Rune Lords. I have Marion Zimmer Bradley, and I can't decide if I should get rid of those books or not. Marion Zimmer Bradley did bad things. Anyways, so
wait, didn't she do? Isn't she the author of The Mists of Babylon?
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Oh.
I saw that book at the bookstore, and I was like, I kind of want to read it because it's Arthurian. But then I started looking up some Goodreads reviews, and I was like, maybe I'll wait. Maybe I'll wait until I can find it for cheap.
Well, the nice thing is when you get the books, the new books at least, all that money goes to like charity funds to donate to things that she was guilty of. To put it that way. I don't want to talk about it. But and so anyways, the one thing I have on this stack that there's this guy that he passed away last year. I never knew the guy, by the way. He passed away, and his wife got moved to like a home or whatever. They were really old, and so the children sold the home to just people I knew, and with everything in it. and they asked me to come help them clean it out. They threw away almost everything, right? But he had some books, and so I took some of his books because they let me. I got this Louis L'Amour book.
Very nice. Yeah.
I actually got 2 of them.
Nice leather bound.
Yeah, and I was like, I have no clue what they are, but Jabal Sackets. Do you know anything about Jabal?
Jubal's my favorite. Jubal Sackett's my favorite Louis L'Amour that I've read. I don't know. That's how I pronounced it.
I have no clue. So I shall now say this one's just called Sackets, I guess. So.
Yep. Yeah. I've got those somewhere up here. I think behind this mammoth bone right here. It's my. Actually, it should be this mammoth bone and the.
Oh, cool.
This stacked in front right
got
here.
This map of Colorado and New Mexico, man. I've been to this place. Actually, my family has land right here.
Wow, very nice. You can just insert yourself right into the book.
Yeah.
Pencil yourself in.
I've been to Taos and Eagle Nest and Cimarron. You ever? Yeah. You're familiar with Boy Scouts at all? You live in Alaska, so I don't know. But there's Philmont Scout Ranch is like right here.
Okay.
I've been to that. But so, anyways, I got a little more now. I have no plans to read. I've never read a Western that's not like a fantasy Western. So
I really like L'Amour.
I hear really
he's a different type of story. Yeah, I mean, like he's a very, very good storyteller, but a lot of his stories end up the same.
Oh, really?
Like the good guy wins in the same way every single time, type thing.
At least the good guy wins.
That it's not necessarily bad, and the story, the audience that he's writing for, that's what they want to read, and so it's good. And he's a great storyteller. The way that you get there is always so interesting, and he immerses you in the world super easily, super well. But it's also very accurate. I mean, like I read Sitka a couple months ago, which is more set in California than it is Alaska, honestly. But he goes up to Alaska, and you feel like you're in Alaska when you're reading the book, and it's really cool.
That's cool.
So I quite like L'Amour. Not my favorite author, probably my favorite Western author that I've read. The only other Western author that I've really read much of, though, is Zane Grey, and I've only read 2 of his books so far.
Okay.
So I don't know. I like him. I've heard The Walking Drum is L'Amour's like all-time best. Like everybody's like, oh, you got to read The Walking Drum, and I think that's not a Western. I think that's like a medieval story or something like that. So
really,
I'll have to check. I know he's got at least one medieval. I'm not sure if that's the one that it is or not, but I think it is. Rather historical novel set in the Middle Ages, 12th century Europe and the Middle East. So yeah, and it's cool. Supposedly one of his absolute best that he's done. I haven't read it.
That sounds cool.
I think the rest of my family has. That's everybody tells me I need to read it, so eventually I'll get to that one.
That sounds cool. I know Robert E. Howard, who is we talked about him earlier a little bit, but created Sword and Sorcery. But Sword and Sorcery is largely inspired by Westerns. And so when I say I've read some fantasy Westerns, I mostly talk about Sword and Sorcery. So like this one right here, Sometime Lofty Towers, great stinking novel.
Okay.
Tiny, short. Actually, the review should be going up.
Read it 4 months ago, and the review's just now going up.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that is typical. Except for with like a lot of these recent ones coming out, like Bad and Hill and stuff.
Well, that one I needed to get out because it's the book was just coming out and everything, so I wanted to get it out for the author.
Yeah, my next one is Empire of Exiles, and that comes out in November, and the one after that is Ashes of Man, which comes out in December. And then I'm going back to the ones I've read. I think I still have ones I've read in June. I'm still getting that.
Yeah.
Maybe I think I'm done, actually. I think because the next one I have to review is Neuromancer, and I think I read that like July 1st or something. I could be completely wrong. I could have read that June 1st. I don't remember. But Sometime Lofty Tower is really good. And Robert E. Howard actually wrote Westerns. I have not read any of them. This page I'm looking at lists The Vultures of Wapatone. Vultures Sanctuary in Wild Water. They're probably not novels, if I were to guess. They're probably
Westerns have some of the weirdest names, like weirder than fantasy names most of the time.
Impressive.
I don't understand why. I can't see any of them up there, but I mean, like you'll get like Kilkenny and is one of the names, and they're just like these things that really don't make sense, but they're usually the last name of a character.
Yeah.
And so it's like a name, not a place or something. Sometimes you'll get places though, and it's just like I don't understand where you're getting these names, but they're pretty interesting. So.
That is interesting. Well, we should probably wrap up so I can get some sleep. But no, it was fun talking with you. If anyone actually made it this far, I'd be impressed. But hopefully someone has. I don't actually know when this is going up, but I'll get it up sometime. So, but thanks again, T, for joining. It was fun. I have to do it again. That was a long time. I think it was the longest I talked to someone. I think actually I talked to Christopher Rocchio about the same amount of time. But anyways, so yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, well, definitely do it again at some point.
Right. We'll see. Well, we will. Oh yeah, and I kind of mentioned it. He's got it in his name. Go check out An Erudite Adventure, of course, which he does videos as well as his sister.
Right there, I think. It's where it's at least for me. If it's not there for everybody else, and I don't know where it's at. So.
It's right there. Yes. Okay.
I also comment on 90% of Liam's videos, so
yes, which is quite a feat.
Follow my channel
5 a week.
You get I don't. There's a couple that I don't watch. Usually I'll put them in my watch later list and then not get to them. So that's usually what ends up happening. But I try and watch most of them.
Well, that is fine. There's too much YouTube to watch anyways. So even at 2 times speed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyways, I guess we'll sign off now.
All right.